Shut up and sit down. Shut up and sit down.
From California to Connecticut, from Long Beach to Lime Rock, from sprint to super sprint. How much more alliteration can I get into an intro? Good evening, everybody. Nice to have you covered wherever you're tuning in all around Australia or indeed all around the world on the platforms of Tim Shed Broadcasting. Welcome to our coverage of round 5 of the Real Sim Racing Australasia and, of course, the Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries here on the platforms of Tim Shed Broadcasting. Going to be a magnificent night as we tackle Lime Rock Park over 66 laps. A fascinating night at the office here at a circuit that I like to think of as America's answer to our iconic Lakeside Park up here in Queensland. Of course, it is fast, it is short, it is fraught with danger. Very little in the realms of overtaking opportunities throughout the course of the night, and electrifyingly quick as well. This is going to be a race that'll whiz on by. The qualifying pace, the race pace is sub 53 seconds. The qualifying pace somewhere in the vicinity of the 50-second bracket, ladies and gentlemen. We are in for one hell of a night at the office here in Connecticut. Good evening again. Zach Caban alongside Daniel Leet with you for our broadcast tonight. Daniel Leet, of course, super subbing for our good mate Matt Davis. He'll be back on deck next week. And, of course, Daniel was here last night as well with our coverage of the Super 2 series. Mate, welcome into you once again. Thanks for being the third member of the commentary team on such a regular basis throughout the course of the season thus far. It's at an interesting point because Long Beach last week threw up some great racing in the super sprint round. We now go back to sprint racing, and we're looking forward to that immensely. And a 66 laps round here, it's going to be a challenge. We'll get to the nooks and crannies of the number crunching in just a moment, but the guys are going to have to be really on their limit tonight and have their wits about them as well, because one slight spanner in the works, one slight bit of trouble, and it could be a very costly night in the championship sense.
Absolutely. First and foremost, good evening to yourself, Zach, and to all the viewers tuning in. Great to have you back for the Super Series tonight. Mate, look, you're right. It's a very fast-flowing circuit. Matt and I were talking last night. We get through a sentence, and what do you know? We've finished a lap. So you blink and you've missed it around here. It's a very different circuit to what we saw last week out at Long Beach. We've gone from the concrete canyons to a very fast-flowing circuit, laced with grass around the outside. And we saw last night, throw a wheel off, it's going to fire you into the fence. Now, we're fortunate. We've got a safety car as a result of that last night. We saw some good strategy unfold in the super sprint format, and both races were taken out by young Sebastian Bardell last night as well. He put on he took out race 1. A different winner race 2, but the racing nonetheless through the field was absolutely phenomenal. We saw some brilliant passing, we saw some fantastic side-by-side action around the majority of the lap, and I cannot wait to see tonight what the guys have got in store.
Absolutely right. Now, of course, the big difference is the super sprint round for us was last week. The super sprint round for you guys was last night. They are two very different sorts of racing, aren't they? Last week, you got a second chance. If you mucked up in race 1, you got a chance to redeem yourself in race 2, although that is fraught with danger in its own right because Long Beach not exactly overtaking friendly. Tonight, it's one chance, and that's all that matters. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. What we've seen so far in the championship is an ebbing and flowing sort of battle between Corey Shepherd and Dylan Rudd, and I expect that to continue tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be a very strong fight off there. The big one is going to come from once qualifying is obviously completed. Getting the jump away at the green flag is going to be key. We saw the guys go hammer and tong down into turn 1. There was only a minor little bit of contact in race 1, which unfortunately sent one of our drivers off into the weeds. But for the majority of the field, they got through relatively unscathed, which has been fantastic to see. So if you can get the jump there, you can make a couple of positions. If we do get the dreaded safety car, now we hope we don't get it, but in the event we do have it come through, it'll be really interesting to see the way the guys want to get away when the green flag comes out to get us back under racing. So last night, the guys wait right to the very end of the start-finish line before they jump to really minimise the draft that you can have down into turn 1. So that in itself is great to see. The pace tonight, though, will be really key to watch. We saw in race 1 last night, on average, the guys were running in around a 51-second range. We're already starting to see that in the qualifying for the first group at the moment.
Yep.
When we went into race 2, obviously it was a little bit later in the day. The track was a bit hotter, but we saw the pace fall off down to about a 53-second average lap time. So for the guys tonight, obviously a lot longer out there. But the big thing is manage the tyres, manage the traffic. How the guys pick their way through that as we unfold the race, that is going to be the big talking point.
Absolutely. Of course, more from you in just a moment, Daniel Leake. We'll have a look at, obviously, the track notes, and we'll have a chat about the lack of flexibility, if you like, in regards to... Actually, we're going to have a look at the track notes right now. There they are on your screen, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have a look at the championship points on the back end of this. 2.46 kilometres, 9 turns this circuit. 66 laps, 162.4 kilometres is the race distance tonight. Now, where I want to focus and bring your attention is right there where it says race distance and fuel restriction and fuel burn, ladies and gentlemen. 38.9 litres is the fuel restriction. That's what they're going to start with tonight, which is about 35% of tank capacity, being 110 litres. The only time you'll see these guys start with 110 litres in the tank all year long will be for the Goodyear Autocare Warana 1000 when we get the Mount Panorama early December, late November, whichever it may fall. But tonight, you look at that 38.9 divided by 1.8, get somewhere in the vicinity of 21.6, 21.7. So what we're saying there, Daniel, is given it's a 66-lap race, given it's 2 pit stops, there's not much in the realms of flexible strategy play available to these guys tonight. It's going to be pretty much laps 21, 2, 3 is that first window, and then probably 43, 4, and 5 is where you're looking at the second. Unless you can save enough to maybe eke it out maybe one lap more than that, I can't see too much going on beyond those laps that I've just mentioned there.
Exactly right. I mean, the last thing you want is to be caught out in the event a safety car comes through. We saw that with Sebastian last night. The safety car was called just after he got past the start finish line. Unfortunately, he did compromise his run. He got back to 9th, however, so phenomenal drive back to the grid. But the strategy is going to be all important here. You got to maximize the run. I think for the guys that can hold station, leverage the car in front, maybe second, third fiddle, can save a little bit of fuel. You can short shift your run. You might be able to lift and coast a little around down into turn 1 there. But it's such a high speed track. It looks very simple here, but you're in the throttle a fair bit to try and get these cars to turn. So it's going to be an interesting strategy play for a lot of these guys to really sort of work out where they want to do, maintain the pace, and still get the passes in that they need to do to pull themselves up through the field as the race progresses.
Second session of qualifying, second stand qualifying getting underway now for you, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, on screen there, I'll quickly run through the rest of that track information in just a moment. So we'll leave it there for you. But how we operate qualifying, or how we've been operating qualifying so far this season, is bottom 50% go out first, then top 50%. And I believe that's 7 championship standings, if nothing else. And the fact of the matter is, Daniel, the system has been working so far this season. And it's always interesting to see just how much cleaner it is when you've not got a full field utilising the racetrack. There's an opportunity here for everybody to spread out and find their own piece of real estate and give it a real good red hot crack.
Absolutely. I mean, we saw it first come into effect in the series back in winter, and it's kind of hard to believe we're already 5 rounds into the championship. But it worked fantastically well. We saw the guys get a little bit extra room to play with. We're not fighting over a 30 or 40 car field, try and get everyone to work their way through. So it gives you that little bit of time to find your rhythm, find your groove, get on with your lap. Now, just keeping an eye on the track map at the moment as the guys are starting to filter their way around. We've already got 3 pockets here for the guys, and looking at how they're going, they're trying to leverage a little bit of that draft that we talked about just before to get those times up, keep the pace where they need to be. So it'll be interesting. I wouldn't mind betting, though, once we get about 2 to 3 laps in, we'll really start to see these guys just space it out just marginally enough to get.
Yeah, exactly right. What we've seen so far is qualifying has been, again, hard fought between the 2 championship combatants, Corey Shepherd and Dylan Rudd. Expect that to be no different tonight. And bang, straight to the top. Corey Shepherd goes 51.15. We'll let you watch that qualifying session unfold. We'll have some graphics on your screen there in just a moment as well, but we'll go through other bits and pieces here as we roll ever so closer to race start, ladies and gentlemen. Sean McNamara, 51.7, the early benchmark in the qualifying session here. So these guys are going to be looking at sub 51s very, very shortly. Just going, covering off for anyone that might be listening to the broadcast but not watching it. Just covering off the rest of the information there on our track notes map. 2 pit stops, we know that already. That's standard procedure for this series. 2 sets of tyres. The set they start with, the set that they'll take on. I'm guessing second pit stop, which means they've got to get something in the vicinity of 44 laps out of that first tyres. Air temp, a very pleasant 25 degrees. Track temperature, an equally pleasant 27 degrees. The wind speed, it's high, 19 kilometres an hour in a westerly direction. And we have nothing to offer, by the way, of previous winners' lap records or lap times because new uncharted territory for us. Can you believe it? Lime Rock, one of the most synonymous, one of the most famous circuits on the server. And this is a new ground for us to have a crack here in the RSRA SuperSeries. So we're really looking forward to seeing how this plays out tonight for Goodyear Autocare Warana. Let's look at the championship points now as we venture into this round. And it'll show you that Corey Shepherd is on 603 points, leading Dylan Rudd on 593. Sean McNamara, 571. Rehan Leonage, 554. 550 for Rainer Costello. So 53 points separates the top 5. But I'm going to wager that those 5 are still very much in championship contention, especially if something was to go wrong for Shepherd or Rudd somewhere along the way here. McNamara just doing what he always does, maintaining his consistency, going along nicely. And he's been rewarded with third in the points after the first third of the season. 8 rounds left, including this one tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We crown our champions very early June, the first Tuesday of June, as it works out with the calendar this year. May 31 will be the penultimate round, the week after the Indianapolis 500, and then we're back here in the lead up to the long weekend of most parts of the country. Funnily enough, the progressive and civilized ones that have a long weekend in June. We've got Dylan Pereira sitting there in 6th place, 543. 515 for Cameron Jones, 506 for David Kirby, 501 Simon Chadwick, and Brenton Nitschke on 492 points at this point of the championship. We'll let that scroll through for you so you can have a look at where your favourite drivers are at this point in time. Daniel, the 2 at the top have been formidable. They've been hugely impressive, no doubt about that. Shepherd has hit the ground running since joining this series. We knew that Dylan Rudd was always going to be considered a contender. But what surprised me is the lack of intensity, I guess. Well, the lack of results for Rehan Leonage. He was second in our championship, or first in our championship for much of the last season of 2021. He fell by the wayside at Mount Panorama, unfortunately. Couldn't finish the 1,000. But for this young guy to be in the bottom half of the top 10 more than the top half of the 10 just goes to show how much the goalposts have moved season on season. The championship is as competitive, if not more competitive, than it's ever been.
Absolutely. I think the yardstick continues to move forward with every season as the field goes through. And I think we got some new investment in the championship this season through Premier now fielding some additional drivers. Corey Shepherd's come into that, and we know he's very quick in pretty much any series that he turns his attention to. So that in itself is a good measuring stick for young Rehan to get there. Now, when we touch base at Barber Motorsports Park, we saw those guys in riding contention there. Unfortunately, the strategy for him though was the one deciding factor that ultimately let down young Rehan and Dylan there, and that sort of has been a bit of the tone for the course of the championship so far. There's still plenty of racing to go here, though. As you say, we had eight rounds left in this championship, so they're not out of contention yet. And if you see one of the guys up front have a bad night, and we've come so close so far, seeing a few of these guys end up in the sticks. I think that's Corey Shepherd at Barber as well. He nearly had an incident with the wall there. It's not been smooth sailing for him. So, got to be in it at the end of the day, collecting points. We know it's double points at Bathurst as well for the guys. So, every point counts, especially if you want to be in there to win it right at the end of the season. Indeed.
Now, you know this track a little bit better than I do. Overtaking Opportunities. There aren't too many of them, but at least there are a couple.
Well, look, they're slim to none, we'll say. There's a couple of opportunities here where you can get it. Down into turn 1 is probably going to be the crowd favourite to get a move done. Now, the other opportunity, if you can get the run, is up into turn 5. Now, I think I only saw one guy make that last night. Unfortunately, we didn't get him on the camera, but I did get a bit of a feed after the race on it. It was Tony Gafford getting one down the inside there. And it's not an easy thing to do in these cars. You're grip limited out of 3. You've got to try and find the momentum to get it through. And it does rely a lot on the drivers. Now, we saw guys attempt it last night as well. I think to Jaden Forg and might have been, I think, the other guy that was in it. But they got into contact. So it's very tricky to make it work in that area. So 1 is going to be the preferred one. 5, you can make it work at your own peril. So it's a tricky one.
It's funny what they say about pressure, and it sometimes gets on the drivers, especially when they're the topic of discussion in central commentary. Look who's second. He was first a moment ago, but he's been pipped by mere hundredths, thousandths of a second by Corey Shepherd. Rehan Leonage has himself a provisional front row start with 3.5 minutes left in qualifying. Is this the night that he turns things around and gets a result on the board? As I say, he's racking up results. He's there in the top 5 in the championship, but he's not pushing the issue that he showed throughout the first season, third season last year. He's not pushing the envelope and putting the pressure on the championship leaders and some hot shots of our sport like he was last season. The guy's 12 years old this year and really punched above his weight last year. Is this the night that he finds second gear as far as his first campaign, his first hit out of 2022 is concerned? We will wait and see. So 2.5 minutes left in qualifying here. Everything that Daniel just said there highlights the importance of how critical the start is going to be tonight, because those early laps are usually where the moves are made. Hopefully we don't settle into too much of a rhythm of follow the leader. Hopefully it doesn't be too processional along the way here by virtue of the fact that there are next to no overtaking opportunities. Hopefully we'll have a real elbows out exciting exchange coming your way over 66 laps here. Now, given the lap times are sub 52 seconds, expect a real fast one tonight, ladies and gentlemen. However, tyre wear is going to be interesting because obviously last night we can't really gauge anything on last night, Daniel, because it was a super sprint round. Whereas tonight it's the flat-out sprint round that we're normally used to, over 160 Ks. So, I mean, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't sort of approach. If you take the tyres in the first stop, you've got to get 44 laps out of the second set. Conversely, if you take the tyres in the second set, you've got to get 44 laps out of the first.
You're right, it is. I think looking at the track conditions that we're afforded tonight, I'd be of the mindset you want to keep them at the back end of the race. That being said, if you get a random safety car, you're probably going to jump in and make the most of it then, because the last thing you really need is to be stuck behind traffic on an old set of boots. It's going to really hinder your run forward. It's going to help those guys a little bit further back. When we did see the traffic start to come into play, and it was mostly in race 1. We saw Sebastian Vandel lose nearly a second over half a lap, which, when you think about how short this circuit is, 51 seconds, that's a lot of time to be losing to your competitors. So it's a really, really tricky compromise. I think we'll see these guys manage the tyre life fantastically well, as we always do. But I wouldn't mind betting there's a couple going the risky strategy of putting those fresh tyres on early.
Indeed. Cars coming into the lane. Clock winding down as far as qualifying is concerned. Corey Shepherd got himself another pole position, ladies and gentlemen. Done by the narrowest of margins. That 100th of a second. It'll be less than that when we have a look at the results on your screen in just a few moments. Of course, there will be a driver's briefing coming up here in a matter of seconds. And then the cars will be on the grid ready to rock and roll. I think race start time is going to be 8:45 Eastern Standard Time. So, because we usually have that 5 minute. Oh, geez, that's a rough entry to the pit lane. That's a wild entry from, was that Raider? No, it wasn't Raider. It was his teammate, Hayden Fell. Of course, birthday boy over the Easter long weekend as well. So happy birthday to him. So clock has stopped. Qualifying on the driver's briefing is now underway. that gives us a couple of minutes here to analyse the crap out of what we've just seen and also run you through for the race tonight. Which way do you see it going, Daniel, before we go and have a look at the qualifying results? Reflects the grid, of course.
Look, I don't know. Looking at the numbers that the guys have put down in qualifying, and I've got to say I'm mighty impressed with just how tight the field is tonight. We've got just a fraction over a second covering first to 26th position around here tonight. So really anyone's game.
And that again highlights competitiveness series. The fact that Simon Vella, someone who races very well, is last on the grid, 26th and last, but he's just on a second away from pole position. It was a 51.02 or 51.01 something for Corey Shepherd, and a 52.04 for Simon Vella. It is exceptionally tight. We expected nothing less. It is Lime Rock Park after all. And to be fair, I mean, just again reiterates the point that to be in the top 10 here, you have to be at the top of your game week in, week out. This is a series where they take no prisoners, and it's reflected when you see someone like Cameron Jones, who's been at the pointy end of our series so far this season, sitting down there in 12th place. Let's have a look at the qualifying results if we can, and we'll tell you who's doing what as far as this grid is concerned. Drivers will be with us on the grid in a matter of minutes, ladies and gentlemen. They'll be just getting read the right act by race control as we speak. Have a look at that for Holden present in the top 10, if you don't mind. And have a look at the margin between first and second. Corey Shepherd ahead of Rehan Leonage. Rehan Leonage bounces back in a big way. And let's hope he can convert this and turn his season around here tonight. And force the issue and get himself on a run of, podium results or something to put the pressure on the guys at the front end of town, because he's not going to be able to do that, racking up the results. Yep, consistency, great. He'll be in the top 5 at the end of the championship, no problem. But he wants top 3. He wants one better than what he got last year. He wants to be the cream of the crop. He needs this result tonight to start that momentum shift in his favour. So Corey Shepherd and Rehan Leonage, the front row, how critical is the start going to be? Then just look at that. Top 5 separated by less than a tenth of a second. McNamara, Pereira will share the second row. Rudd, Grundell the third. Then Delaney and Tommy Freeman from the 4th row. Reina Costello, not bad for someone that's just been on a 36-hour road trip from South Australia, where he was competing in the Australian Karting Championships over the weekend. He's got back. He's got in the sim. No experience of Lime Rock whatsoever. And he's put it down in 9th place. He will race very well tonight. High turnarounds out the top 10. Over the page, Simon Chadwick and Cameron Jones. More forwards in this half, or this third of the field, if you like, ladies and gentlemen. 6 and 4 is the split between 11th and 20th. Simon Chadwick, Cameron Jones from row 6. Ben Morris and Craig Schultz from 7. Daniel Kirby and Jamie Dyke from row 8. There's another one. Dyke's had his run of results at the pointy end of town. We interviewed him last week, of course. So to sit him down in 16th just tells you how tricky tonight's going to be, how challenging tonight's going to be. Same can be said for David Kirby. He's got good pace too. Hayden Sell, Bruce Tunnock from 9, Brenton Nitschke and Robert Crisdale from 10. From 11, it's going to be Michael Angus. Good to see him back on the grid. I was a little bit surprised, actually, given his involvement with Athletics Australia. I would have sworn he'd be at the stall gift yesterday, but apparently I was wrong. Matty Scholes there in 22nd. Brian Good, Hayden Norris from row 12. Dean Alessi and Simon Vella from 13. And as you see, 4 and 2, the split forwards to Holdens between 21st and 26th. It is our smallest grid of the season, but around here, Daniel, that's not exactly a bad thing. Less is more in a sense. We've still got the quality, we don't have the quantity, but Lime Rock's one of those circuits where if you had too many on the grid, you'd spend half the race behind the safety car. I guess, okay, the potential for safety cars are very high, but what works in our favour here, unlike some courses we go to, there is a lot of runoff area, there are a lot of grass patches, but you catch one of those grass patches and you are a passenger.
Exactly, and we saw that last night with but yeah, you catch the grass, gone. We saw it later in the race. So Stefan Lawrence, thank you for escaping in the ear there. So yeah, Stefan Lawrence got a phenomenal jump, second on the grid to begin with against Sebastian Vardell, and Vardell just held him wide and he caught the grass, sent the car wide, turn one, went from what was effectively first row grid start, plummeted all the way to the back of the field, and a lot of work to do for the run home. So it's a tricky one because you need to use the grass. You need to maximize the corner entry and exit to flow the car through here. But if you go that fraction too wide, you're going to pay the dividend. It's risk and reward to get around here as quick as we're seeing tonight. And it's the guy that can just get it on that edge lap after lap that's going to bring it home in first place.
Pre-race entertainment proudly brought to you by Porsche, ladies and gentlemen. Have a look at these two lunatics ripping and tearing around the racetrack, if you don't mind. I mean, whilst the drivers are being read the riot act, the safety car and the medical car of the Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries are out there on the circuit clocking 54 8s and 55 4s respectively, if you don't mind. And that's only 4 seconds off, 4 and a bit seconds off pole position, isn't it? Or 3 and a bit in the case of Lee Davis. So don't think for a second that these guys aren't having some fun while they sit there in their safety cars throughout the course of the evening. They've probably got a little bit more to offer, but they've also got to be responsible for the viewing audience at home as well. I'm looking forward to them ripping and tearing around Mount Panorama in a pre-race show in about 8 weeks' time. Hey, we're going to get cars on the grid now, ladies and gentlemen. We're ready to rock and roll. This is going to be a very fast, frantic, fierce encounter. Round 5 of the Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries. Tuesday night motorsport on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting, wherever you're tuning in all around Australia. Strap yourself in, buckle up, and hold on tight, because I just get the feeling that we're in for an absolute rip snorter throughout the course of the next 66 laps. 160 kilometres away just here. Corey Shepherd and Rehan Leonage to share the front row. Watch for the number 1, Sean McNamara. He's been chipping away at it the last couple of weeks. An appearance on the podium is in the offing. There's no doubt about that. Dylan Rudd, the points leader, of course, is Corey Shepherd. Dylan Rudd's right there pushing, but he won't be happy with starting down in 5th. He'll need to use strategy to his advantage tonight to move his way through the field, and some good racecraft as well. There's the grid. We've already run through it, but for the sake of a refresher, that's how tight it was between 1st and 2nd on the front row of the grid. 0.005. 5 thousandths of a second is all that separates Corey Shepherd and Rehan Leonage. And that, I have to say, oh no, I've just got some breaking news coming through. Poor Michael is going to, he's just letting me know that he's in for an absolute shocker tonight, because he's going to be using the buttons because the shifter is broken on his wheel. So that's not a very nice way to start the evening for Michael Angus. Watch for him to probably struggle, but he'll persevere with it. It'll get through to the end regardless, I am sure. There's the grid. We're set to rock and roll. But once the lights go out, all hell breaks loose for 66 laps. We're expecting this to be running less than an hour, especially if it goes green all the way. This could be the fastest race of the season on the little cauldron that is the 2.46 kilometre Lime Rock Park Circuit in Connecticut on the east coast of America. We were on the west coast last week. We're on the east coast this week. I'm led to believe that race time is around 8:30 a.m. in the morning. Circuit time, which correlates to 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but who are we to judge? So it's a morning time encounter. And if you're not already awake in Connecticut, you're about to be very shortly, because the roar of the RSRA Super Series for Goodyear Autocare Warana Supercars are about to ignite. It's Corey Shepherd and Rehan Leonage, 4 against Holden on the front row. Shepherd the points leader ahead of Dylan Rudd. But there's not much in this. It's one of those blink and lose situations. You do not want to be the driver that slips up tonight. We're set. Wait for the lights. When they go on, the revs fires, the cars roar. The tension, the drama. You can just feel everyone getting a little bit antsy and impatient as we wait for the starter to take control of this field. Sean McNamara, Dylan Pereira, Dylan Rudd, Luke Rundell making up that next 2 rows behind Corey Shepherd and Rehan Leonage. 7th is Blake Delaney, Tom Freeman. Watch Rainer Costello from 9th. Watch Cameron Jones from 12th. Chadwick alongside him. And now we're set to rock and roll. Round 5, Tuesday night motorsport, Lime Rock Park. bouncing off the red limiters. Away we go now. Right. Oh, Sean McNamara immediately up there on the inside. Trying to get by Rehan Leonage, who says, nah, bugger that. I'm going long. I'm going hanging tough around the outside. You're going to have to work a little bit harder than that, number one. Rehan Leonage round the outside puts Sean McNamara at bay and slots into second position, and they remain status quo based on how they started. A clean start as they make their way through. Corey Shepherd's the early race leader in Connecticut. The hill for the first time. Nicely done. Blake Delaney's off. Blake Delaney's plummeting down the order. Right now, we've got Corey Shepherd as the early race leader. We've got 5 laps to go. Yep, that's one in the book already, ladies and gentlemen, and went by frighteningly quickly. Shepherd leads. Leonage, McNamara, Pereira. The top 4 remain where they started. Grundle and Rudd have swapped around. Costello's up 2 spots, as is Kai Turner. Freeman down 1. And as you know, Blake Delaney, the big loser in all that, down to 25th position.
And throw into that as well, David Kirby. He also had issues down 11 spots as well, finds himself 26th position. But that was a cracking start on the front row there. Good on Leonage for holding her up around the outside there. He didn't want to give up that spot, and he's now in the box seat now to his sights with Corey Shepherd. Start chasing after it. That lap in the book, massively quick. But I'm looking at the times on the sectors so far. Leonage already finding pace early on.
He went long, and he held the throttle. He held the line around the outside, Rehan Leonage. I thought for a moment there he was going to try and have a crack at Shepherd, but no, the end game was to keep McNamara at bay, and that's exactly what he did. Look at that, 50.55 for Corey Shepherd. They're in the 50s already. They're half a second up on their qualifying pace. Already, that is astonishing. We ride on board with Leonage right now. The Phoenix Racing Squad as he chases Corey Shepherd.
Super exciting to see that the pace electrifying off the get-go here. And he's put himself just a bit of a gap now, half a second over McNamara and Pereira. Now, I think we've got to keep an eye on that start for Leonage. He's already starting a car length behind Corey Shepherd there, and he was right on the door into 1. So he's got a phenomenal getaway off the line.
Yeah, it was a superstar. Have a look at this. Look at Brandon Costello now all over the back of Luke Grundle and Dylan Rudd. So Rudd's got back by Grundle. Top 6 remain where they started. Grundle has a look, then tucks back in. Rudd comes across to cover it off. Kai Turner's right there as well. It's a 4-car freight train that battle for 5th. Lap 4 is 66. On the home of the Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries and the Australian Stock Car Championship Simshed Broadcasting. Great to have you along for the ride. Tuesday night motorsport. We hope you all had a safe and happy Easter around Australia. Of course, Anzac Day coming up next week. More on that a little bit later on. But right now, we've got the elbows out at Lime Rock. And that was a little bit ugly. Through the chicane. Dylan Rudd got a little bit checked up. It balked everyone behind him. And now, look at this. Rainer Costello under tremendous pressure and displaced by Kai Turner. Whoa! Big moment for Costello.
Yeah, not much left in that one. Turner giving it all and then some. He got a phenomenal run for 5 and 6. And so everyone checking up there and just put the crisscross on Costello down the front straight there. Fortunately, no incident in either of those two. We'll fight another day. It did separate this little 4-car battle for a moment. Check out the guys starting to line up right in behind him. Freeman, Chadwick, Jones, Morris, all getting in and amongst it now.
And Schultz as well, in 13th. He's not too far off that train. He'll latch on at any tick of the clock. And that's why this is such an important round in this series, because of how, line astern this field's going to be. The battle packs are going to be long. The freight trains are going to be there. And if you slip up, the penalty is going to be, severe. We're right on board with Cameron Jones right now, down the main straight. He's following Simon Chadwick at the moment. They're both trying to displace Thomas Freeman. They can't do that at the moment. Interesting to see that to keep Kai Turner at bay and eventually displace him, Rainer Costello applied the Rehan Leonage tactics through turn 1 and held it around the outside. So don't think for a second that the inside line is where you're going to get your overtaking manoeuvres done tonight. You might even be able to make them work on the outside, which means that overtaking at 1 is fraught with danger. because you've then got to try and find a way to cover off that outside line on the exit of 1, on the run into turn 2. And so far tonight, it hasn't yet been, bleedingly obvious which line is preferred through that section of the circuit. We've seen it work both ways. Oh, jeez. Every time they get the grass put onto the main straight.
There's not much left in it. We've got to keep an eye too. The back of the Fishing Motorsports, they've had an absolute shocker so far tonight. Jamie Dyke has also joined Blake Lane and David Kirby with a big positional drop. He's now back in official last place, down 10 spots from where he started. We didn't see what unfolded there, but he's had a massive moment, and that's going to cost him big in the championship. But this fight now for the top 10, or just inside the top 10, really starting to heat up. Tom Freeman, a little bit of a gap there. You can just see the green and the white Commodore from Premier Racing. He's starting to slip away from this little fight now, but Kai Turner really starting to put pressure on the back of Chadwick here and work their way down through that second to last corner into the final corner now.
Chadwick up 2, Jones up 1. Kai Turner's obviously dropped down to 10th place, being displaced by Thomas Freeman and Simon Chadwick. He was up there with Rainer Costello. So again, just one little slip up, and it's costly around here. It's not just one spot; it could be 2, sometimes 3 and 4. And as Dan already pointed out, 3 guys in trouble: Blake Delaney, David Kirby, and Jamie Dyke, all down there 24th and 6th. It's a long way back from there, especially in a race like this, where, as we mentioned at the start of the call, because of the fuel burn and the mileage per tank, there's not a lot of flexibility, variability in strategy play tonight. So it's going to be a long night at the office for Delaney, Kirby and Dyke. Onto the main straight again. That's already lap 8 in the books. We're on to lap 9 for Corey Shepherd. We're following this battle here with Rehan Leonage looking out the back at Sean McNamara. McNamara doing a beautiful job of keeping the young bloke honest here. But conversely, the young bloke doing very well to stand the pressure as well. And that, I mean, we talk about the fact that he hasn't netted a podium result yet this season. Let's not lose sight of the fact that, yes, he is only, 11, 12 years old, and he has, on many occasions, punched well and truly above his weight and age, maturity-wise, in this series. So we're expecting big things from Leonage. He just needs to find, a couple of tenths of a second a lap, and then he's back there with those guys. Tonight, the best we've seen from him so far this season. However, the problem now for everybody, and it's not just Leonage, it's everybody, is that Corey Shepherd's already put 2 1/4 seconds on the pack down. So Shepherd's been able to use his pace advantage to clear out, check out, and say, catch me if you can. And because of the lack of overtaking opportunities, notwithstanding what we're about to see on screen, trouble at 1! Trouble at 1! Kai Turner and Cameron Jones have come together. Kai Turner now has plummeted right down the order, and he's now going to be fighting it out with Delaney, Dyke, Kirby, and Co. Brenton Nitschke as well down the back end of town. Let's have a look at this again. So this was, at the time, the battle for 10th. And they were both trying to get down on the inside. And in the end, Jones was forcing the issue a little bit too much, I think. Kai Turner goes pirouetting out of that. Dylan Pereira now showing off track as well. So the mistakes starting to creep in here. And already, I mean, obviously that's one issue around here, Dan. You've got drivers like Cameron Jones who take no prisoners trying to find their way through. And sometimes you'll see that where we've got drivers trying to make it. Well, hang on, just one moment here. Hayden Sell, Brian Good, Dean Alessi, Brenton Nitschke, all in pit lane, so too Kai Turner. And now we've got safety car boards and flags. And Dylan Pereira.
We've got a car stuck down in the final corner there. And I think it's going to be reminiscent of what we saw last night, picking up that wheel on the outside, lifting the car back across the lane. So everyone's jumped in with the expectation of a safety car. This is going to work out perfectly for these guys.
Yeah, but in saying that, it goes against the grain of the strategy play in terms of the fuel mileage. So it's going to be very interesting to see whether they just now concede defeat, make it a 3-stopper with a splash and dash at the back end. This is what happened to Dylan Pereira. This is the reason for the caution, because it's Pereira that's showing us off track at the moment. This is on the run down to the final corner, as Dan said. Oh, geez. Passenger, wall, bang, see you later. Up and over and out. Yeah, that's a frightening crash for Dylan Pereira. Thankfully, it's the sim world. He'll work away scot-free. The car, an automatic reset. No costly damage there as far as that's concerned. If it was the real world, however, geez, you'd be worried about the bill that was coming your way. So lap 12 is 66. And so many drivers taking the opportunity to stop in the early stages here. Who have we had? Corey Shepherd, Sean McNamara, Dylan Rudd, Luke Rundell, Ben Thomas, Freeman, Simon Chadwick, Cameron Jones, Ben Morris, Craig Schultz, Michael Angus, Villa Hayden Sell, Brian Good, Jamie Dyke, Dean Alessi, Brenton Nitschke, Kai Turner, and that's it. They're the ones that have stopped thus far. Dylan Pereira is going to be our first retirement of the night. He's out of the race. And we're only a sixth of the way through the race, Dan, and already all hell's broken loose. But now we've got an interesting, game to play out here, because it's either going to be fuel save or just cop that third stop or hope for a second safety car for the guys that have stopped, because, again, the fuel range being about that 21, 22 lap marker left very little in the realms of flexibility if you wanted to do anything, different to that.
Exactly, and I think it's an interesting strategy play for the guys up front. So for those not stopping tonight so far, we've got Leonard, Costello, Tannick, Crisdale, Scholes, Norris, Delaney, all playing that risky gamble of running it a bit longer, sticking to their numbers and knowing where they need to be. Now, I think you bring up a good point here. See, everyone coming in lap 11, we're just on halfway through a tank of fuel, give or take. We know those guys have probably elected to stick on the same rubber that they've got, maybe save those tyres for a little bit later on, because they're going to need it when we consider when the rest of the field come through to take their stops. They need another safety car to get themselves home. Unless they can get this thing around on the smell of an oily rag from here on out, they're going to fall 10 laps shy and force the hand at another stop.
Bearing in mind as well, it's not only the 66 that's the target number for these guys. They've got to get to 67, because if they don't get back under the pit lane under their own steam, it's a penalty. So, and it's a 3-place penalty as well. So they don't want that, because, that'll be 6 championship points that they're surrendering in that process. Comment of the night thus far from one of our YouTube viewers, James White: track looks slipperier than the KFC kitchen floor. Very good. I like it. And unfortunately, Cameron Jones might be agreeing with you on the back of his incident with Kai Turner at turn 1 in the KFC car. See what I did there? Rehan Leonage, Rainer Costello, 1 and 2. 2 young guns that are going to bring this field back to green. They're obviously playing the straightforward strategy of 2 stops. Everyone else now beyond 7th place, hoping to do something different. However, big leg up for Blake Delaney here. Let's focus on that for a moment before we get back to green. We'll wait and see when the safety car's coming back to the lane, probably this time by. In fact, I believe that has been confirmed now that it'll be in this spot. Blake Delaney, he's just got to get out of jail free card, hasn't he? Because he's opted not to stop. And after his incident that saw him plummet down to the back of the order, he's now back in 7th and all of a sudden back in the game.
Well, he is, and he's playing this beautifully. They gives him a second chance, another bite at the cherry to set himself up here. And if he can just keep the car on the straight and narrow, press forward ahead, he's in a good spot. That being said, he's got one of the hardest competitors in behind him in the form of Corey Shepherd, and then throw Sean McNamara in the mix there as well. Those guys are not going to want to hang around. They're going to be getting on with business quickly. So a lot of it's going to come down now when the guys look to restart. Now, for last night, we saw the restart right on start-finish line, preventing that run into turn 1. Safety car has gone away. Leonard with the control of the field. Where does he jump?
It's in his hands, and you can already see Rainer Costello with the brake lights on. Now he goes. Let's get back to business in Connecticut. Good restart from Leonard. Keeps Costello at bay. On the run to turn 1. Line astern, status quo, nose to tail. Through they go. Not much in the way of overtaking at this early stage. David Kirby, the other one, not stopped under that safety car, but he's showing down in 12th place behind 4 of the guys that have already stopped. So already Kirby's on the back foot there. Jamie Dyke did jump in, opted to go with the alternate strategy. So we've got 2 different strategies playing out here. It keeps things lively and interesting for a little bit longer, ladies and gentlemen. Lap 15 at 66 at Lime Rock Park. Corey Shepherd not mucking around off the restart. On the tail of Blake Delaney there as they come down the hill once more. It's going to be frantic, this next passage of play. Every time you bunch the field up, it's fraught with danger because you know that the elbows are going to be out from the start. We've got one car coming into the lane. That'll be Cameron Jones to serve a drive-through, I would suspect. And we've also got, and that has just been confirmed in my earpiece. And not only that, and now on your screen as well, not only that, it's also fraught with danger because safety cars breed safety cars. The adage. Now, the point that I was making before all hell broke loose and we got those safety car boards and flags, and was that with Corey Shepherd breaking away the way that he did, I know that the field's been cleansed and that's kind of been, ruined right now for Corey. 2 1/4 second lead because it's now a deficit because of the alternate strategy. What that was doing was illustrating just how hard overtaking's going to be on this circuit tonight because of the way in which hit clear and no one had gone with him. And you know that the likes of McNamara and Rudd wanted to go with him. Here he goes down on the inside. Pit lane infringement also for the 990. So that's a drive-through penalty for pit lane infringement during the safety car. And now the elbows are out. Shepherd and McNamara side by side here through turn 1. Shepherd covers off McNamara for the moment up into 7th place. They've both got by Delaney. Delaney back to 9th. Now the next target's Hayden Norris and Matthew Scholes as well. Robert Crisdale is 4th. Bruce Cunnick 3rd. Rainer Costello and Rian Leonage the top at this point in time. But then, yeah, overtaking, as you said, few and far between opportunities here tonight. So if you're Corey Shepherd and you can get back to the lead and make hay while the sun shines, it's going to make it very difficult for anyone to catch him if he repeats what he did in that opening stint there, because he looked like a man on a mission.
Exactly right. He drove away. He was the only driver, the only two that have been in the 50s so far in the race. We've got a couple of guys that got close to that, but as you see him move down into turn 1, still looking on the back of Hayden Norris there. There is nothing on it. We've got a pit lane infringement here for the 019.
That's Cameron Jones, and that'll be from when he came in for his drive-through. So that's frustrating for Jones. That's 2 penalties for him already tonight. As we said, the 990 of Dylan Rudd also copped the pit lane infringement as well. So that is big with regards to the championship. That has implications with the battle with Corey Shepherd here. So, I mean, you pointed this out to us pre-show, Dan, that it was a talking point last night. A lot of pit lane infringements here, and it looks like the Super Series boys haven't learnt from the Super 2 boys.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the run on into pit lane. See the yellow solid line there. It's guys not getting the car far enough over as Corey Shepherd with a massive dive out to the right of field. He's just keeping it on the circuit. Yeah. But the guys are not getting the car over far enough. Now, it's a very tricky pit entrance to get here, much like we saw last week at Long Beach. There's no time to get the car across, get it flowed off the racing line, and unfortunately we've seen already a couple of guys get penalised as a result of it. That being said, keeping an eye on Corey Shepherd, mate, he's putting this car in places that we would not expect to see it. Flicking it from the left, from far left of circuit down the main straight, all the way over to the right, back again, looking for every opportunity and really starting to put pressure on here. Keep an eye on McNamara. He is not letting go. He's right in contention here in the number 1, still trying to retain that number 1 placard on the car if he can finish 10 from last season. He is in with a fighting shot here.
Shepherd had that thing sideways going through the chicane, and the only thing that saved him there was that the field's checked up behind Hayden Norris here and they can't find a way through. So it's very much panic stations at the moment for these guys, because they know that with every single lap that goes by that Hayden Norris doesn't allow them an opportunity to find their way through cleanly. It's one less lap they've got to undo the difference in the strategy at the moment. Oh, there it is. There's the pack being released. Hayden Norris locks it up into the chicane. McNamara, Delaney go through.
And while that was all going on, we did have another couple of cars involved as well. Goodall and Alessi having a moment down in turn 3. So it's all going off on the same lap.
It is. And it always happens that way. Down the main straight we go 3 wide, if you don't mind. You can't do that at Lime Rock. The track's not wide enough. Have a look at this. Down to turn 1 they come. This is good stuff. This is hard-fought stuff here on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. Hope you're enjoying our coverage of the Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries, round 5 from Lime Rock. We've got a few more American tracks and a South American track to come your way in the next few weeks as well. We've got our first Enduro of the year coming up from Road Atlanta in the not-too-distant future either. And, of course, at the end of the season, we've got Mount Panorama for 250Ks as well. Another Super Sprint round thrown in for good measure at Oran Park. There's so much to look forward to in the back half of the season. But we've only just started the second third of the campaign. Round 5. And Lime Rock is not disappointing thus far. Rehan Leonage, the leader at the moment, as we hit lap 22 now. So this is the critical number. But it's not as critical as it once was, Dan, and the reason for that is they would have saved a little bit of fuel under the safety car here. Leonage, Costello, Tunnock, Crisdale and Scholes. They're the top 5 that haven't stopped yet. The first of those that has stopped is Corey Shepherd in 6th. They may be able to stretch this out to 23, 24, maybe 25 if they're lucky, but not much beyond that.
No, I wouldn't think you'll go much beyond 24 maybe at this point. There would have been a hell of a lot of lift coast to get these cars through. And I think from pretty much this point on the circuit, turn 6 down to turn 8, you can put the car in neutral, coast it around, which is under safety car. You need to save as much fuel as possible. So they might get a little bit. That being said, they are leaving nothing on the table here. It was a 51.8 last time by for Leonage, 51.99 for Costello. And if you throw that in the mix, Corey Shepherd, as he gets the move finally done down the inside of Skulls, and McNamara through for good measure as well.
Yeah, and that
51.89.
That right there is exactly what Cameron Jones was trying to achieve when he got into the side of Kai Turner, unfortunately. Turner was down the inside. Jones wanted to go with him, and unfortunately it just didn't play out as cleanly as what we just saw there from Shepherd and McNamara. And so often that's going to be a talking point tonight, trying to capitalise when the guy in front of you makes a move so that you can keep going with him. You don't want to get boxed in with a potentially slower car. But already we've seen tonight what Corey Shepherd is willing to put on the table. He's Costello's in. Rainer Costello in at the end of lap 23. So too Tannock and Crisdale. Leonage goes on for another lap. So 24 of 66 now. We've got the field not quite cleansed, but very close to it. Matty Scholes, Blake Delaney, Hayden Norris also yet to stop. So too David Kirby showing down in 19th place. Rehan Leonage leading this field at Lime Rock at the third race distance mark. We're on to lap 24. Shepherd's stop was 11.43 seconds. So that's the other thing as well, Dan. Okay, they don't lose anything in terms of the pit lane transit because being the safety car, they don't lose as much as what they would normally. But the transit times, the stop times, they're all going to be out lopsided because you're going to have guys stopping in there for 20 seconds now. When you had other guys stopping in there for 11 seconds because of their fuel tank capacity. They hadn't burned as much fuel, therefore there wasn't as much to take on, and therefore they've got to balance out that 10 seconds somewhere down the track. Rehan Leonage into the pit lane. With him is Matthew Scholes. Multi-car contact, the 469 on lap 20. Is going to cop himself a drive-through penalty as well. That is Brian Good. That'll be for that incident that they're referring to with Dean Alessi, I think you'll find. As Leonage, Scholes and Norris make their way to pit road. And Rainer Costello. Oh, jeez. Let's have a look and see if the undercut works for him, because that's the other thing. We've got 2 races within a race here. We've got Blake Delaney, who hasn't stopped yet. He's showing 6th. We've got Costello and Leonage arguing over the same piece of real estate. And have a look at this. Leonage has managed to cover off Costello by mere inches. And now, Shepherd, McNamara, Grundell, Freeman, Chadwick, all the guys that stopped on lap 11, they're now clear sailing at the head of the field. But we know that they've got an invoice to settle later in the race. Fascinating to see how it's playing out, Dan.
It is, and I'm just having a look at the pit stop times for both the young fellas there. There was a fair disparity in difference between Costello and Leonage. It was 41.12 total pit stop transit time and service. Plays a 41.12 for Costello. So he's lost a second effectively, which was the little bit of buffer that he built up after the safety car there. But it was just enough to get him back out in front with full tanks of fuel. He's got a little more in the tank when you think about it. Costello's done another lap gone a lap earlier. So Leonage really starting to play himself into very good contention here and possibly getting himself a fistful of points to go along with it.
100%. Rehan Leonage, Rainer Costello showing 14th and 15th at the moment in this motor race. There's Ben Morris and Craig Schultz, 7th and 8th. Blake Delaney into pit lane. Now the field is cleansed. They've all completed their first round of stops. with the conclusion of that. So, Corey Shepherd's 1 second clear of Sean McNamara, who's got 2.5 on Luke Grundle and Thomas Freeman 0.5. Your point about Leonage and Costello well nullified. 18.35 played 17.77 stationary time. So it was quite interesting to see that Costello 0.6 of a second quicker in the pit lane. Leonage is second slower on the transit, but it balanced out in favour of Leonage by, as we saw, mere inches. Lap 27 of 66. And pick up Thomas Freeman, I believe, there on screen coming down the main straight. So he's sitting there in fourth in the 015, all over the back of Luke Grundle like a cheap suit at the moment. Grundle holding him at bay. And that's the other thing. I mean, we harp on the overtaking opportunities or the lack thereof, but you've got to make them count tonight. You've really got to make them count. As we saw in the early stages, no one was able to get by Rehan Leonage, and whilst there was only 5 thousandths of a second between him and Corey Shepherd on the starting grid after the qualifying session, the fact of the matter is that Corey Shepherd hit the ground, hit the gas and got going in that opening stint, built up that 2.5 second lead. Leonage not able to go with him, the pack not able to find a way by Leonage, and all of a sudden that ballooned right out. Yep, sure, safety car sorted that out and, brought the field back to Shepherd, or brought Shepherd back to the field for a better way of putting it. But if he gets clear air, I'm worried about how quickly this could blow out.
Exactly. Well, I mean, he's already put 0.8 of a second on McNamara already, and we saw those guys as they worked their way through traffic, nose to tail. So he's definitely got pace to burn in the 718 tonight. As we have a look a little further down with Rudd and Fowler working their way through turn one. This is the battle for ninth position. But Corey Shepherd has got a car that looks to be on rails at the moment. It's very economical on the fuel. When we consider these guys came in lap 11 when we saw the safety car. We're now working lap 29. So we're not that far realistically away from being at the end of this effective full stint for the boys. Corey stopped there for 11.5 seconds in the lane. Yep. That's going to come into it when you consider it's only 7 seconds less to fill the thing to the brim that we saw for Leonage. So got a bit of work to do. He really needs to get on with business, extend the gap in the event that we go green the rest of the way. It would be good to see as the guy down in
the elbows are out. Jeez. Unbelievable moment there.
Yeah, they're getting on with it. But for Shepherd now, he's just got to get the tail up and go. And he's really starting to find the form. It was a 51.64 for him last time by, 0.03 of a second slower than what McNamara did at 51.61. So both those two out front pushing on with business.
So Dylan Rudd and as we saw there, I mean, Simon Vella, that was helter-skelter. That was hairy stuff. That could have ended up ugly, but thankfully it didn't. Although I dare say race control may still look at the hip and shoulder of that. We go on board here with Corey Shepherd on the run through turn one. Shepherd doing a nice job, sitting there in position number 1 at the moment. We're waiting for the next round of pit stops, and we won't be too far away from that now because these guys all stopped lap 11. We know that the fuel tank on a green flag run is 22. We saw a few of the leaders get 23, 24 out of their opening tank. So we're looking at any time between, lap 33 and lap 35. All these guys are going to be in pit lane. Jamie Dyke on pit road on that note now at the end of lap 30. Let's update you on some retirements from this race early on as well. Ty Turner's out of business. Dylan Pereira, of course, we know he exited in a big way. Hayden Stella's been in pit lane for nearly 9 minutes now, so he's in all sorts of trouble. David Kirby and Brian Good both a lap down. Everyone else showing on the lead lap, although Jamie Dyke's about to go a lap down as Corey Shepherd, and has done, as Corey Shepherd goes across the line and starts 32. You're watching fourth place Thomas Freeman chasing Luke Grundle. Simon Chadwick is there in fifth place at the moment. Sean McNamara keeping Shepherd honest, but not putting any pressure on at the moment. The margin out of a second. Now, 75% race distance here. Look at this. Look at this.
Almost a carbon
It's on
copy.
here. Cameron Jones this time, down on the inside of Dean Alessi for 14th and got it done. So even though Jones has had 2 drive-through penalties already tonight, even though Dylan Rudd's had 1, they're both still in the top 15. Again, one of the benefits of having that safety car fall where it did. But at the same time, in Rudd's case, he's still got an invoice to pay with another pit stop. Jones has been in the pit lane on lap 11, so he's got an invoice to pay as well. So again, we're not going to get a true reflection, Dan, of the running order until we get to that third potential round of pit stops for those front runners that pitted under that first safety car.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll keep an eye on that as it unfolds. We're nearing the effective first full stop strategy, pit stop strategy there for Shepherd to come through, and we'll keep an eye on when he does finally bring the 718 into the lane. Who we've got here? Dylan Rudd just getting the move done on Michael Angus. Michael is just saying he's made the switch just before the race, gone from the shifter back to the button. He's gained 12 spots in the race so far, so it's really working well for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's kept his nose clean, stayed out of trouble. That's the important thing to note. Maybe we're setting such low expectations for himself. He's told us a dummy. I don't know. Now, McNamara and Grundle on pit road at the end of lap 33. So too Simon Chadwick. Shepard and Freeman go on for another lap. Schultz, Morris, so in. I expect Dylan Rudd will come in soon as well. Maybe Michael Angus too. Simon Willis due soon, because they all stopped on lap 11 and right on cue. According to script, they're all in again. But now, yeah, this is where it starts to get really interesting. Really interesting, because it's clear, it's apparent that it's going to be a three-stop race for everyone that gambled on a safety car. But conversely, instead of running 40 and 22, they might take their new tyres now. So they've done, it's more even in terms of the tyre usage. That's another benefit, I guess, having a three-stop strategy. Could very well conversely also be the downside based on track time. If they do get a second safety car, it could be curtains for them. It could be very costly.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be an interesting stat. I mean, if the guys have saved those tyres for this pit stop right here, right now, they are in a really good condition. So they've split the strategies nicely. We're 35 laps completed. We've got 32 left in the book to get the cars home. We'll still got that extra lap in once the flag concludes. And they've played it nicely. Leonage will take back over race lead. We'll wait as Shepherd now drops down in the way. Rayner moves through. Sean McNamara has picked up a spot, so he came in that lap earlier than Shepherd. He's gained a spot as a result.
Yeah, and 2 seconds with it as well. And it's interesting, he stopped with 7.93. Shepherd's was 18.18, so it was much by, that stretch of the imagination. But at the same time, track position is king around here, and McNamara found a way to get his way ahead of Corey Shepherd. But of course, they've still got to worry about Rehan Leonage and Rayner Costello, who are on steady Eddie straight down the barrel pit strategy. They haven't gone zagging when everyone else zigged. They haven't zigged when everyone else did. They've zagged and stuck on the normal strategy, the way we expected it to play out. Geez, that was tight. McNamara coming down on the inside there, down to turn one once more. So he runs third. So yeah, it's again at a very interesting crossroads, this race, because you've got a mix of drivers committing to a three-stopper, and then everyone else going, the standard procedure, two stop. And the old change is as good as a holiday old adage. That's going to be tested tonight. Is three stops going to be king around here, or is two going to be trump card? We'll wait and see. We're right on board with Simon Chadwick now. He's sitting down in 9th place, chasing Bruce Tunnock. Bruce with that green, black and orange livery, and he's got him up around the outside out of the chicane. Tunnock got a little bit crossed up through the chicane, and Chadwick's been able to displace him. Up into 8th he goes. Very nicely done from Simon Chadwick to move up into 8th. He's just come out of the pit lane after completing that second stop. He's got Brisdale ahead of him and Tunnock behind him now, who both are on the main strategy, the standard strategy that we expected at the start of the broadcast of 2 stops. And you got young Chadwick in the middle here on 3. So Morris, Schultz, Norris off the circuit at the moment. We'll wait and see if he can get that sorted out. It's just caught the grass down at turn 1, so yes, he's okay. But it did cost him a bit of race track time to Ben Morris, Craig Schultz and Dylan Rudd. Back to 14th he goes. Oh boy, this is hotting up just beautifully. 30 laps to go. We're on lap 37. Just interestingly enough as well, Renekta mentioned this at the top of the broadcast, and I know I do it all the time. I should get into a habit of actually sorting this out beforehand. 75% race distance for those of you playing along at home is 50 laps tonight. 29 and a half, so round it up to 50. Anyone that gets home to 50 laps will get their championship points tonight. If you don't make it to 50 laps, you're toast. And therefore, young Hayden Sell, who's been in pit lane for 15 minutes now, is already 16 laps down. And that will mean that if he loses one more, he will be curtains, because even if he does get back out on the racetrack, he will not be classified, having not reached 75%. So that's disappointing for Hayden Sell. Of course, we've already updated that Kai Turner and Dylan Pereira are out of the race, but still 23 on the track, 23 in contention, and battles popping up all over the joint at the moment. Have a look at this. Rainer Costello under enormous pressure from Sean McNamara now. Onto the main straight.
Well, I'm really surprised. Have a look further down the road. You see Leonard's already opened 2.7 seconds up. And I don't know what's happened to Costello.
Costello fuel saving and unnecessarily so. I'm not sure. He's just been passed as though he was standing still by Sean McNamara. And that, yeah, you're right. That sounds very strange to me. It didn't even fight. It was just, he surrendered. Now, car 43, Benny Morris, into pit lane for car contact on the 020 on lap 37. It's a drive-through penalty for Ben Morris. Another one, unfortunately for him. Contact on Hayden Norris. Now, we hadn't seen a replay of Norris's off. That explains it. Here it is on replay. Dan, talk us through this, please.
And back here and have a look. So it's the rundown into turn one here as we watch the guys come through. You just see 43 gets out there. There's a little bit of movement. I don't know on that one. You see Norris jink a little bit under brakes there. Sort of comes in through the middle of the circuit. Now it's been adjudicated that 43 that he has moved the fraction there and caused the contact. But I don't know. Looking at it from that front on angle, I'd love to see a little bit further up whether we can or not. But it looked like there was a little bit of a jink there for Hayden. So, look, race control doing a phenomenal job behind the scenes, keeping an eye on that and working at it. I see race control are still checking it. Here we go. Here's the onboard shot. So, we're riding on board here. We'll have a look as the guys go over start-finish line. And for Norris, he's right on the racing line, down in towards the brake zone, hitting the 5, the 4, maybe a smidge of contact, but he's moving across in towards the center of the circuit. It's a very early apex, and that's where the contact occurs. You can see him just jink a little bit back to the left and then runs out of real estate there as he runs it off the end of the circuit. So, look, it's a tough one. We did hear, too, the 43 has asked race control to relook at that, and as a result, they've received the misuse of comms in the process of it. Now, we know that at the end of this, if the guys aren't happy with the control that race control do issue you, we've got a protest form that they need to take care of. I know when you think about it as the racing driver, and the racing driver in me would be absolutely furious if you don't think that the process has gone your way. But there is due course in a way to sort of fight that and look at it post-race. Now, it doesn't solve what has happened in the race. You've still got to serve that penalty, but it gives you the ability to have a second look at it outside of the race condition.
Well, that's exactly right. Now, have a look at that. A little bit of hip and shoulder there. A little bit of SMSing on the bumper bar as they come through on lap 42. So now we're getting to that second critical point, aren't we, Dan? Because the critical lap is lap 44. You can fuel up there and get home. Everyone's been able to get 22, 23 laps out of a tank so far. So 44, the end of 44, that's when we somewhat expect Leonage, Rainer Costello to make the way to pit lane, maybe a little bit later than that, 45, 46, because of the fact that the first stop wasn't until lap 23 and 24 in the case of Costello and Leonage by virtue of the safety car. Ben Morris in pit lane now to serve that penalty. So whether race controls rescinded the first penalty or just issued him with 2 straight up and said bad luck. So I think he's got 2. So it's 2 trips down pit lane for Benny Morris. Oh, you know, when it rains, it pours, doesn't it? But again, rules, and the drivers do know. I'm the last person to sit here and, you know, preach about the rule book, fair dinkum. But the drivers do know that the rules are there for a reason. And if they're not obeyed to a T, race control will come down hard on you. And in this case, misuse of comms is or has warranted a drive-through penalty in Ben Morris' case. So he gets the contact penalty as well, whether he thinks it's there or not. And already Dan's questioned that as well. And then he gets the one for questioning it on comms. So Double blow there for Ben Morris, which is a shame because he had good pace and he was showing some promise tonight. So he's down in pit lane and has been there for about 56 seconds now. 41 laps in the book for him. He's now 2 laps down and completely out of contention. So I dare say he'll be no doubt disgruntled with all of that. Lap 44 or 66. So Rian Leonage is on 44. That's the number that we're looking at the moment. Have a look at Craig Schultz coming down on the inside as well here of Blake Delaney. Job done. Schultz goes to 10th.
Yeah, Mr. Zach, I'm going to throw an interesting proposition towards
Yes, mate.
your way, mate. So we know the pit stop strategies. We're expecting Rehan in any moment here to complete his second stop. When we saw the second round of pit stops take effect for Sean McNamara and Corey Shepherd, they both returned back on track, with McNamara getting a little bit of an advantage there, but going 1 second quicker on the pit stop stationary time against Corey Shepherd. Check out where Corey Shepherd is sitting right now. 4th position. He's not running the same pace that we're seeing from the guys at the front. Is he already in fuel saving mode, do you think, to try and get this car home?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. 54.12 last time by the line. Here comes some pit stops for Chadwick and Robert Christar. Down the main straight, Delaney's under pressure here from Dylan Rudd through to 9th. Now, what's interesting about all of that, what you just said there, Dan, they've come in on 33, 34. They will have to get, 11 more laps out of the tank to get home on 2 stops. Seemingly difficult task. But these guys are, they've pulled out some interesting plays before. Wouldn't surprise me if they're up to mischief this time around as well. Now, here's Anna Costello coming into the lane. Yes, he's in. And so too Rehan Leonage. So both guys that we expect to fight it up for the race based on the numbers that we're getting here are on pit road at this point in time. Sean McNamara continues on, 51.91 last time by for him, 52.17 for Shepherd, 52.05 for Grail, 52.2 for Freeman, 52.2 for Chadwick, 52.0 for Schultz, 52.1 for Rudd, 53 for Blake Delaney. So keep an eye on that. He might be a little bit of saving territory there. Who else did we say? Cameron Jones, 52.4, 52.7 for Brendan Nitchie. So there's a few guys that are a little bit slow, but yeah, we're definitely nowhere near the pace that was being set at the start of the race. Corey Shepherd's 50.55 was a record breaker in so many respects.
Well, it was indeed. Having a look there at the pit stops for Rehan and Rayner, they both had a lap difference when they were coming in. They pitted on the exact same lap 45. And speak of the devil in the lane now, Corey Shepherd has got in there too.
So Shepherd's in now. And that's interesting because he's committed to that 3-stop strategy. So, again, I didn't like the idea of having to save, enough fuel to get an extra 11 laps out, and neither did Corey Shepherd by the sounds of that. Be interesting to see if anyone else takes up the theory, though, Dan, and I'm glad you brought it up because it is interesting. It'll be interesting to see if anyone does have a punt, take a stab at it, whether they're rewarded or crucified remains to be seen. Now, this is a tantalising race unfolding here before our eyes. Corey Shepherd's back out on the racetrack now. He's showing down in 11.8 seconds that last stop. So again, Freeman and Chadwick both in for another stop here as well. So basically now we're seeing this third round of pit stops playing out as well for those that pitted under the safety car. And we said that if you didn't get a second safety car, you were automatically at a 30-second disadvantage because it's the 11 for the stop plus the 22, 23 for the transit. So already Shepherd's paid that invoice and now he's back on the racetrack. But the margin down the road to Michael Angus is 3 seconds, and then at 13 up the road to Rehan Leonage. So he's on the back foot.
But he's got pace to burn. First time through Sector 1 on this lap was 13.72. He is starting to get back on with business. Now, here's another big one
as well.
Benny Morris. Benny Morris. It's gone from bad to worse for him, unfortunately. Pit lane infringement, didn't get the car back across the lane, and subsequent race disqualification.
He has been disqualified. So that's 0 points for Ben Morris, and there'll be more to that one, I'm sure. We'll dive into that post race and maybe get some more info on that. But yeah, 2 penalties and now a third penalty, and the third strike, you're out. The black flag has been shown. His night is done. Time for an early shower, unfortunately, for Ben Morris. But interesting with Corey Shepherd here, we focus on the race itself, and hopefully that's not one of those things that overshadows it. Corey Shepherd's already covered off Rainer Costello by 3.5 seconds. So even with that third stop, not sure what strategy, Rainer's playing out here. But the fact that he's lost 3.5 on Shepherd, he's lost probably, yeah, that's a fair point coming through the earpiece as well. He's probably fatigued, tired and spent after the trip back from South Australia. So he'll no doubt just be trying to soldier on and bank some championship points here. It would have been a long shot. It would have been a very impressive performance from him if it was to net a W tonight, but it's not going to be, unfortunately. Sean McNamara continuing on. Luke Grundell continuing on. Dylan Rudd continuing on. Craig Schultz continuing on. Rudd's already had a drive-through penalty tonight. We know that there are some invoices to pay here from those three, and then we wait and see what that means for Rehan Leonage, Corey Shepherd, Rainer Costello. Shepherd's already paid his invoice, so we're going to get an indication where he is in relation to everybody else as soon as that's done. There he is, past Michael Angus now. Job done. So he's up into 6th. The next target is 10 seconds down the road. That is Rehan Leonage. Let's wait and see if he gets some clear air and what sort of pace he brings to the table as a result of that. McNamara, Grundell, Rudd, still waiting for them to come to pit road. Craig Schultz as well. Michael Angus is also on that alternate strategy too. Rainer Costello's just put a wheel on the dirt but got back on the racetrack. So, yeah, that fatigue really well and truly kicking in for the 44 right now. For the, formerly 44. Now, of course, running number 56. I'm still thrown by that. That just doesn't seem right.
Well, no, but look, he's doing a cracking job nonetheless. Come back from being out racing karts, getting out, driving from South Australia back home and getting back in the sim. It's a hard-off effort to him. Done a phenomenal job. That being said, got to keep an eye on Corey Shepherd, though. He's still pressing on the gap to Rehan, 3 seconds at the moment, and continuing to come down. Corey Shepherd has got a big move on here, as you see Delaney, and is that Hayden Norris getting into it again down into turn 1. No major harm, no foul for either of those two. They'll continue on their fight. McNamara still setting his sight in lap 33. He has got to be running that car on absolute fumes at the moment. We're going to expect a very short strategy for him.
100% splat and dash in every sense of the word. So much to look forward to here in the next while. Hope you're enjoying it as well. Post-race show, of course, coming up after this one. We're going to try and rip it tear through that one and get you out of here 10:15 Eastern tonight, ladies and gentlemen. But there's a fair bit to unwrap in all of this. And the fact that we started about 5-10 minutes later, I was expecting us to, doesn't that, but we'll do our best to get out of here by 10:15. Don't worry about that. So it's 53 of 66. There are 14 laps, including the one we're on. We got Jamie Dyke was showing off the road. He's got back on. He's fueled to the end. Well, we're just waiting to see what it means for the drivers that haven't come to the pit lane to top up to the end here. Here's Rainer Costello. I don't like the fact that we're watching a replay with Rainer here. This could be trouble. Turn on the run there. Oh, it's caught the grass. Jeez, that was tight. Did well to get away with that. Had it been somebody else, they may not have. Matty Scholes showing off at the moment as well, coming out of the last corner. Now he's into pit lane, so that's okay. We continue to soldier on without a second intervention from the safety car. And now we're at a critical point of the race. We're waiting to see Sean McNamara come to pit road, Luke Grundell, Dylan Rudd and Craig Schultz, and what that means for young Rehan Leonage, who is the effective leader for the fact that he's on what actually became known as the alternate strategy tonight, which originally was the, straight down the barrel, the general consensus that was going to be the strategy tonight. Dylan Rudd's in the pit lane right now. Oh, we got trouble at pit lane. Now that I'm gonna hazard a guess that was Matty Scholes. Yeah, so Matty Scholes was in the lane moments after that incident. So he's obviously come unstuck on entrance to pit road and managed to limp it into the lane. Sean McNamara's in. So Sean McNamara's in. Here's a replay firstly. This is what happened to Scholes. McNamara is in.
Oh, and it's the 0-6
contact. Contact. Oh, no. Contact for both cars. And And the 307, David Kirby, he's had an absolute shocker, hasn't he? I mean, seriously. But unfortunately, that all started with the contact on Scholes, and unfortunately for Kirby, he was an innocent bystander in all of that. McNamara's on his way out. Leonard around the outside to take the lead. What about this? And look who's there as well. Corey Shepherd. We got a three-way fight for the win. Lime Rock Park. You beauty. This is going to be fun. The elbows are going to be out of here. Good luck, young man. Rehan Leonard looking to get himself back in the winner's circle. With a win tonight, is going to have to withstand the pressure of the championship leader, Corey Shepherd, and Sean McNamara, the defending champion, to get the job done at Lime Rock. Now, this is interesting because, as I said, the three-stop strategy became the new norm because of how many people took the option. The two-stop strategy, which is what we all thought would be the lay of the land tonight, Dan, it became the alternate strategy, and it looks like it's working at the moment. But the next 10 laps, the next 11 laps, are going to be so intense. And
the hard part is we're now in lap traffic territory as well, and for Rehan, as the first car onto it, he's got to pick and choose his moment to get it right. The guys in behind, they're just going to close that gap up gradually, get themselves in position, and if they play their cards right, they're going to be able to fire one down the inside. Now, it's one of the KFC cars out of the way, but it has brought the gap down marginally ever more. 0.4 of a second as they crest up over the hill towards 7. We've got another KFC car just ahead of us. Pick the number up on the screen there, but Rehan is doing a phenomenal job here to get it going through. Now, I thought with all the pit stop strategies that came through, and I've been thinking it now, it reminded me of an old Formula One race from about 02, 01, somewhere around there, where we saw V10 era back there, 2 and 3 stop strategies, and the guys have played it out beautifully tonight.
Yep. That's actually worked out better than I thought it would. They've somehow found a way to, buy themselves 20 to 30 seconds here, and they've not paid a huge price for that third stop. This is extraordinarily tense. What's going to unfold here over the next 10 laps? Less than 10 minutes left in this car race. Is there a sting in the tail looming? Is there another safety car on the horizon? What's going to happen here as it all plays out before our very eyes? Live Tuesday night motorsport. It doesn't get much better than this at Lime Rock Park. 57 to 66. Rehan Leonard's the leader, 0.8 of a second. He'll use that KFC car.
Cam Jones.
Of Cam Jones for a little bit of a tow, but Cam gets out of it. And rightly so. He'll get the blue flags. He'd get the, the people in race control a little bit displeased with him if he held them up. So he did the right thing. He moved out of the road.
He did indeed. And look, we spoke about this a little bit last night with the way the blue flags fell and the way the traffic sort of played out. And realistically, for the guy that's being overtaken, don't do anything silly. Don't make any unsudden movements. Maybe crack a throttle down into turn 1 there. Let the guys fly through. Just be decisive about where you want to stick the thing and continue your move through nicely. Now, Rehan has gained up to a second now on McNamara, so he's playing that traffic game beautifully. We're having a look a little bit further down. See, there's going to get car contact and a drive-through penalty with the 605. So that is Brent Nishki for that contact down off turn 1 there. But this battle between Chadwick and Grundle, this is a great little fight here, just outside the top 5, 6 7 on the screen, and 0.2 of a second is all that covers them. 7 laps left in the book.
Down the main straight. Look at this. It's getting aggressive now. On the run down to turn 1. Chadwick and Grundle have swapped around as well as Dylan Rudd's gone into the lane. Look at this, however. Look at this. Awesome racing. Elbows are out at Lime Rock, and still they go. The 957 of Chadwick gets by Grundle and makes him pay. Hit lane infringement for the 990 as well. That's Dylan Rudd with another penalty. So that's his second tonight. Down the inside. Can't get it done. Chadwick covers Grundle. Chadwick the 6th. Has had an absolute shocker because he's made yet another pit lane infringement and a drive-through penalty invoice to settle as a result of that. Put him back down in 12th place, and his championship nemesis is up in 3rd. Costly night at the office for Dylan Rudd in the 990 as we come back to the line and 7 laps to go. Rehan Leonard's the leader. He's keeping McNamara at bay. Shepherd, Costello, and Freeman the next three. In fact, Freeman's looming up on Costello. Costello could lose fourth here.
And
we'll keep our eyes on that.
There's been a moment for McNamara as well, because Corey Shepherd has closed that gap up immensely to the back of McNamara. 0.2 of a second now as the guys work their way through the last corner here. Back on the straight one more time. That's giving a little bit of breathing room here to Rehan to work his way forward. And that gap continuing to eke forward just marginally, 1.4 seconds to work their way into one. Shepherd now mirrors, or is pulling the mirrors of McNamara. We'll have to see what McNamara can do, because it's now roles reversed, what we saw earlier on in the race.
Indeed it is. Geez, this is 10th. Shepherd all over the back of McNamara right now. Who have you got your money on, ladies and gentlemen? And at this point in time, Leonard just needs to keep it on the black stuff. He will find himself in victory lane. You can't catch him at this rate. He's continuing to just eke away. Eke clear. A tenth here, a couple of tenths there. He's bought the margin from 0.8 of a second and smashed it out to 1.3. And an inch is as good as a mile around here. And now look at McNamara moving left and right to try and defend Shepherd. He can't do it. Shepherd down the inside. Shepherd down the inside to second. The championship leader gets by the defending champion. And does it cleanly as well.
Great pass there down into one. He did it almost effortlessly. We put it on the anchors, got it down nicely into one. A little bit of respect there from McNamara. Didn't shut the door on him too hard. And these guys now continue with the fight. Roles reverse though, so let's see what McNamara can do to redress that situation.
He put that on beautifully, didn't he? It was a really nice piece of driving and covered off the any chance that McNamara might have had of hanging tough around the outside to get on the inside into turn two. He did that beautifully. Now the chase is on. Shepherd 1.3 seconds away from Rehan Leonard. They crossed the line. They got 4 laps to go. Will it be the young Charger, the 12-year-old, or will it be the 718 Shepherd championship leader? Phoenix against Premier for round honours at Lime Rock. And don't forget about 9.5, because McNamara's still got plenty in the tank, I'm sure. He will bring something to the table. He almost has to. The consistency will... Bruce Tunnock's got himself a drive-through penalty. The 1-3 is on his way to the line. In saying all of this, the championship, the defending champion, Sean McNamara, is doing what he's always done, what he knows best, and just netting consistent results. He's on track for a podium finish. As is Leonard. We haven't had them on the podium yet through the first 4 weeks of the season. So that's a good step in the right direction for those two. Now Leonard starts to get defensive. He doesn't need to just yet. The margin's still a second. We've got 3 laps to go in Connecticut. What a night at the office this has been. Leonard, Shepherd, McNamara, Costello still under tremendous pressure from Freeman as well in the back of the fourth. We'll keep our eyes on that as well. Look at this. Action aplenty at Lime Rock. Battles looming all over the racetrack. 15 drivers still on the lead lap. Might be 14. Cameron Jones could lose another. Actually, he has. Cameron Jones has already lost another lap to Rehan Leonard. So he's now down a lap, and it's 14 on the lead lap. Michael Angus still sitting there in 14th. So that's not too bad. Him still holding Freeman at bay. Leaders will come to the main straight and have 2 laps to go. You just don't know where to look at Lime Rock tonight. We were worried about what sort of a race we might get. Being Lime Rock, we've got an instant classic on our hands here on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. Costello still defends Freeman. Now Shepherd's within a second of Leonard, but he's got a second buffer on McNamara as well. Leonard, what a way this would be to bounce back to get himself a victory.
That traffic starting to get in the way there, and nothing that Michael Angus could do to get out of the way there for Shepherd. He's held the line, done well, but that's given half a second advantage to Rehan Leonard now with 1 lap left in the book. Might be all over Red Rover, but we've got another 50-odd seconds before we know the deciding factor, and we've got a few more lap cars in the way as well. So, mate, it's on for young and old here.
White flag flies. We're on the last lap. We're on the run home. 2.46 kilometres. What a race this has been. It just goes to show that sometimes when everybody else zigs, sometimes you've got to zag, be rewarded for it. And what was meant to be the normal strategy has ended up being the alternate strategy, but it's worked for Rehan Leonage. He needed a result like this to get himself some confidence. He's found it difficult to get himself onto the into the top 5 throughout the course of this season, with the stronger competition coming to challenge him. But now he's answered the critics and he's bounced back in a big way, and he's here and he means business in the RSRA Super Series for Goodyear Autocare Warana. Leonage wins at Lime Rock and is back in victory lane. What about that? Now, look at this. Even the Costello, side by side of the run of the one. Costello holds on for 4th. Shepard second, McNamara third, Costello, Freeman, Chadwick, Brundle, Grisdale, Schultz and Delaney will be the top 10. And given how the night started for Blake Delaney, that's not too bad for him. Dylan Rudd's going to come home in 11th. And Hayden Norris will be 12th. Michael Angus ended up going down a lap. We had 12 home on the lead lap. We had the better part of 50 laps there. Frantic under green flag running after that first and only safety car of the night. And Phoenix are back on top in the RSRA Super Series. Rehan Leonage will be in victory lane in a matter of minutes.
Now, I would love to know how much fuel he had left in this thing to get it home. You can hear him lifting coasters. We get on with the onboard shots here up to celebrate the victory, and we're looking forward to seeing what kind of a burnout now he's going to be able to deliver for us. First time for this season so far, we're going to get the Phoenix car out having a light of the tyres, and yeah, he's got some big shoes to fill after last night. We saw a good burnout from the guys there. Let's see what he's able to put together.
For the first time tonight, I'm going to say crank up the volume, ladies and gentlemen, and listen to the young bloke do his thing as he celebrates victory in round 5 of the Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries. What a night this has been. I can't wait to sink the teeth into the post-race show. We'll do that in a matter of seconds. That's as good as empty, that tank, I'd say. Pulled up to the side of the road. He's trying to get a bird out of sorts going, but either the tyres are shot or the car's shot, one or the other. The driver might be shot too. And it looks like he's run out of gas, I'd say, as well, Dan. So you're right. He had bugger all left in the tank, but he needed none. He just needed to get back to the line there, and he's cemented the win. Well done to Rehan Leonage. We'll have him with us in just a moment. Sean McNamara is going to be in here for the first time this season as well. We're excited about that. And Corey Shepard, the championship leader, will be on his way to the broadcast booth in a matter of seconds. So let's have a look at the results from this round of the championship. Oh, gee, that was fun. That was an instant classic, as if ever there was one, and the safety car spiced things up at the right moment. Let's have a look at this as we remind you of who's done what tonight. Even split. I don't often say that, but an even split in the top 10 Fords and Holdens, but it's Holden on top, bouncing back tonight through Rehan Leonage. He won it by 1.5 in the end from Corey Shepard, who'll extend his lead in the championship because of a miserable night at the office for Dylan Rudd. Sean McNamara third, ensuring that there's still a presence of 9.5 Sim Sport on the podium, and rightly so. He'll be happy about that, the defending champion. I mean, that was a nice way for him to bounce back. Rainer Costello fourth. Not a bad effort considering the 36-hour drive from Adelaide to Queensland. Thomas Freeman, Simon Chadwick, Luke Grundell, Craig Schultz, Robert Christell, and Blake Delaney made up the top 10. Over the page we go, and another even split, 5 and 5. So it was a track that, I mean, often you see a dominance of Holden in the top 10 and then Ford in the next 10, but it's not even. 10 and 10 in the top 20. Not often we say that. Dylan Rudd was 11th, Hayden Norris 12th. And look at the amount of drivers. By virtue of how small this track is and how fast this race was, the amount of drivers a lap down. Angus, Jones, Tunnock, that made up the top 15. Vella, Dyke, Nitschke, and also Brian Good was 2 laps down, and Matty Scholes 4 laps down in the end. He was in drama, in trouble there later in the piece as well, so we did drop a few laps as a consequence of that. Over the page we go. We got a few retirements to get through here as well, ladies and gentlemen. Brian Good, Matty Scholes, then David Kirby. Now, I'm just having a look here. David Kirby didn't get to the checkered flag. However, he did complete 50 laps. He was in pit lane at the end of lap 51. So he gets classified on 75% by the skin of his teeth. And then the retirements. Dean Alessi, Hayden Sell, Kai Turner, Dylan Pereira, and Ben Morris was, of course, disqualified from the round. There'll be more on that a little bit later on. Hopefully someone from race control will have a chat to us about that. But in the meantime, Daniel, I'm almost out of breath, out of voice, out of puff. I can only imagine how the guys that we're about to chat to are feeling. That was just one of those nights where you look at the quality of this series and you think, geez, they've raised the bar again.
Well, they have. They've done a phenomenal job out there. I think we saw some great battles right throughout the course of the race tonight between up top, down to the bottom. It didn't really matter where you were. The racing was hard and fast, and it was phenomenal. So to see the strategies play out the way they did, the mix of 2 or 3, where we went from, and we're going to talk to guys about their thoughts on that as well, left you wanting more.
Exactly right. Now, I'm just getting some clarification on the Benny Morris situation. He had contact with the car. I get the penalty that he was given by comms, which was given a comms penalty for that. That's fine. But then he argued again. So he was given a drive-through. Then a pit lane infringement while serving that. And acted somebody responsibly whilst coming in for that one. So race control have said, look, we've had a gutful, have an early shower. I think that's the long and short of that one. Case closed. Let's move on. Sean McNamara's here. Corey Shepherd's here. Rehan Leonage is here. This is going to be one hell of a post-race show, ladies and gentlemen. We'll rip through it as quickly as we can because it's already 3 minutes to 10. And a young bloke by the name of Rehan Leonage. I believe I'm right in saying you're on the second week of school holidays. If I'm wrong and you've got to go very quickly, we'll make this very quickly. But, mate, welcome back to Victory Lane and welcome back to the post-race show.
It's good to be back. Haven't been able to get up here so far this season, but it was great to be in the podium today.
Well, again, mate, I mean, I don't want to sound like we were harping on the point, but it was a talking point coming into tonight. The fact that we hadn't seen you on the podium yet this year, you were still sitting in the top 5 in the championship. You'll continue to do so after tonight, but the pressure was starting to mount on you if you wanted to repeat the feats of last year and take the fight to the championship decider and try and go one better. Is it what has been the issue so far this year? Is it a case of which the bar's been raised and you guys are still looking for something a little bit more to go with that, or was it just something else that we've missed entirely? Can you talk us through the last few weeks?
It's just been very tough. Bar's been raised like tenfold. And competition like quali's a lot closer too. So even just half a tenth, especially today, even just a tenth was like 4 or 5 spots. So it was just a matter of trying to find the right setup, tune the setup and everything, do right amount of laps, get the lines right, everything. And then we just started working on consistency and nailed a couple laps in quali quite quickly, and that helped us get towards the top. But last couple of weeks it's been a little bit of a consistency issue.
Well, at least this is the great thing about interviewing the young blokes, ladies and gentlemen, because normally 9 times out of 10 they just lay it all on the table. They don't hold their cards back, and Rehan's been open and honest with us tonight, and we greatly appreciate that. Mate, let's continue having a chat here, because obviously there's a lot to dissect in the race that was. You guys went for what we thought would be the strategy. 2 stops, down the barrel, and lock and load, we're home. What was going through your mind, and what was the discussion had when the safety car was deployed and you saw some cars coming into pit lane, and instantly we were looking at it as though they were committing to a 3-stopper?
Yeah, it was safety car called, and crew chief just said, don't pit. It's going to be a bit of a waste of time doing a 3rd stop. Yes, it worked out for Sean McNamara and Corey Shepherd, but it felt like it wasn't the best idea to hit, so we held to the lead, and and the rest of that was just trying to save the fuel and make it to the end.
Indeed. Now, very well done to you, by the way, mate. That was a superb performance. I've done my homework correctly. You are still on school holidays, so I can keep you here for a little bit longer. And we'll have more to have a chat with you about very shortly, including the pressure that was being applied in the closing stages there and how you worked your way through that, showing once again maturity above his years. Corey Shepherd, let's bring you in at this point in time. Geez, you were driving that thing as though you stole it tonight, mate. You're a man on a mission, and it showed in the early stages. No one more disappointed than you to see the safety car come out when you had a 2.5-second lead.
Yeah, we didn't really want to see the safety car, but we were a bit unsure with the strategy with the 2-stop and 3-stop. Obviously, we went the 3-stop option. Just thought might as well come in, get the fuel. Obviously, we only went down to 8. All right, but yeah, in the long run, that didn't really pay off.
Had to drive like a demon, like a man possessed to try and salvage something out of that, because as we said in the call, and again, it doesn't reflect like this on the scoreboard, but it was at the time what we were looking at. It was a case of you were instantly committing yourself to a 30-second invoice later in the race, because the 20-odd second transit plus whatever time you had to top up the tank with, and that was obviously about 10 or 11 seconds. In most cases there, because of the fact the safety car fell so early in the race, you guys came in, you couldn't top up as much or take on as much as you'd like based on fuel restrictions and tank capacity. But it somehow cleansed itself and balanced itself out that the three of you were separated by about 3 seconds or 2.5 when you got back out onto the racetrack after that third round of pit stops.
Yeah, it was definitely a close race at the end, which was really cool. I think maybe we were a bit late with the tyres. I kind of spoke up and said, hey, I want to put tyres on for the last stint, so then we're fast coming home. If there was a safety car, then we'd all be bunched up and we'd be able to start passing cars quite easily. So I think I was a little bit late on tyres, whereas I should have done it in the middle of the race, right at the end.
Well, that's a good point, because that was the other thing we spoke about, wasn't it, Dan? We looked at the tyre strategy and thought, well, hang on. Now they've created an opportunity to take tyres at their second stop, not and take them 10 laps earlier than they otherwise would have if they were on the 2-stop strategy. But obviously, Corey's gone a little bit longer and gone to the far end of the strategy and gone to, what was it, about lap 51, 52. So it might have been just a couple of laps before that, but it meant that we had a lot to keep an eye on as the different strategies evolved and unfolded before us.
Yeah, indeed, it certainly did. And you're right, we were watching as our first full stop services came through for Corey and Sean there, and we're like, yep, tyres on, got to be. But it's interesting. I mean, the guys obviously playing very unique strategies there, and Corey was phenomenally fast at the back end. That probably just needed another 5-10 laps, would have easily got up on the back of Leonage, and we could have seen a cracking fight to finish it out. Not that it wasn't exciting enough already when you consider it was only a 1.5 seconds in it at the end of the night.
Yeah,
but it might have given that little bit extra spice, because we saw him come through with a massive charge there, Corey. And like, talk us through that instance when you came out for your final stop. Obviously, you got the fresh tyres on, a little bit less fuel in the back of the car. You see Sean McNamara come through on you. What goes through your mind there? What's the thought process about, God, now I've got to get down to business. I've got to get these tyres up to temp. I've got to make this pass stick.
Yeah, we weren't too surprised when we saw Sean come past, because we were pretty sure that he took tyres in the stint before, so he got that 8-second advantage on us. But I was told that I was gaining on about a second a lap when I pitted for my last stint, so we tried to keep that going, but we knew we weren't going to get him, so we just head down, try and catch up to him, and then we realised Rehan was actually in front of Sean, so then we had to try and go get Rehan as well.
Well, that's exactly right. And Corey, just sticking with you for a minute, because, and I'm going to get Sean McNamara to elaborate on this in just a moment, of a shocker for Dylan Rudd, in which he's finished down in 11th with 2 drive-through penalties for pit lane infringements to his name. It gives you a little bit more breathing space as far as the championship's concerned tonight. So second is actually as good as he wanted to be.
Sorry, I missed what you said at the end there, but yeah, it sounds like it was a tough night for Dylan.
Yeah, I was going to say, with him being 9 positions down on you, second automatically becomes a very good result.
Oh yeah, the buffers definitely could have opened up a little bit, but can be easily changed. No drop round, so yeah, hope for the best towards the end of the season.
Exactly right. Dylan Rudd finishing down there in 11th for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. The safety car triggered by shocker of a night for both fields, actually, because it was Dylan Pereira that triggered the safety car because the rollover at turn 9. We've got McNamara here. I want to get back to Rehan Leonidas very shortly, but let's get the number 1 in and have a chat to him on there for the first time for this season. Turns out Lime Rock suits you.
Yeah, I didn't think it would. But I think it's a sort of track that if you don't like it, you spend more time on it and you start to find a rhythm. So, yeah. Yeah, correct. All my extra cables have got connected at the moment. But yeah, it was a good night. It was a good night.
Hard fought race, mate. Obviously, you it was a case of 60-40, those that zigged in the first pit stop there under the safety car and those that zagged. And as it turned out, the zag won with Rehan Leonage. But by gee, you kept these guys honest. You held Corey off for as long as you could, but with that fresher tyres at the end there, yes, he had an invoice to settle with regards to Rehan, but he managed to get the better of you.
Yeah, spot on. Corey obviously had that pace. You could tell he put the tyres on at the end. Like you said, I put a gap in that middle stint with a new tyre. I also just think a championship. I didn't want to fight him too hard at the end there. And if he's on tyres and can have a shot at Rehan, then go and have a shot. So played a safe game, and no point in, 5 rounds in, no point in fighting too hard and putting ourselves both in the fence. So it was good. I don't think that I just stayed out too long at the end. I should have pitted a bit earlier, and that, I assume Rehan took tyres on the last stop as well. I probably should have pitted a bit earlier to come out in front and put up a bit of a fight. But anyway, still a good night, and good to be back on the podium.
But yet again, this is the hallmark of you as a performer on the sim racing stage, my friend. Consistency, and it's been that way all throughout the course of this season. You're in the top 3 in the championship. Yeah,
I think potentially with Dylan's thing might jump to 2, but yeah, it's to be honest, not happy with performance at the moment. So I mean, what about 4 5s? Not happy with the performance at the moment. Should have converted a bit better tonight. Starting to find a bit of a rhythm now again, and we'll see how the back end of the season goes.
2 wrongs don't make a right. 4 fifths don't make Sean McNamara very happy. I like how we're working this one out as we go here. Now, Rehan Leonage, let me bring you back in at this point in time because along with Robert Crisdale, you're the only other clean race of the night too. So an extra bonus point for you, and that's some nice icing on the cake, mate.
Honestly, once we finished the end, towards the end, I completely forgot about clean race, and I'm kind of surprised I didn't get one. I didn't get an incident point. But yeah, it was a lot of close calls during the race to getting incident points, but somehow kept it clean.
I think your sparring partner friend Rainer Costello might have been just a little bit too fatigued from his trip back from the Australian Karting Championship, but he stayed with you for as long as he could, and then you eventually got away from him.
Yep, we tried to save a little bit of fuel so that we could make our stop strategy work. Barely made it. We thought that Rainer was doing the same thing, but in the end we started to pull away a little bit. But yeah, glad we didn't have to fight.
Confirm with me 2 things, please. One, because Sean McNamara has already raised this, where did you take the tyres? In the second stop or the first? There, Rehan?
Yeah, so second stop.
Right, yeah. Very nice. I always worry when things go silent on Discord, ladies and gentlemen, because I don't know whether it's my end or theirs. That being said, and that goes back to the incompetence of third world internet in a first world country, but I've been there before. We won't get too political tonight. It's been too good a race to spoil it with politics. 5 weeks to the election. Thank Christ it's looming towards an end very shortly. Hey, Rehan, the other thing I want you to confirm with me too is just how much fuel was left in the tank when you got across the line and you got back to what was a celebratory burnout that lasted about 3 seconds?
At 600, 500 mils left.
Time to perfection. There you go.
And I'm surprised the burnout lasted that long. I thought it was last couple seconds.
No sooner did I say crank up the volume than I was back talking because the burnout, the celebration was that short. However, well done to you, because you got out of that second pit stop and you were going about your business, and all of a sudden, when the field cleansed itself and these blokes came in for their third stop and you realised how tight they were, you had to get your guard up and play defensive and hold your own. And that's not easy when you're playing up against Corey Shepherd and Sean McNamara. You've raced McNamara a few times before. Corey's a new name to our series this year. In the end there, you showed maturity beyond your years, though, because you were able to hold them off and also safely navigate your way round the hurdle, the obstacle that was lap traffic in the end there. And there was a lot of traffic on the racetrack. And in the end, on that second last lap there, it actually helped you.
Wait, could you repeat that last bit again, sorry?
I said on the second last lap there, the lap traffic actually helped you. It worked in your favour, the fact that you were able to get by Michael at the front of the racetrack.
Yeah, I thought that I got past them a bit, like, I thought they would let the other guys go a bit easier, but turned out I was wrong. But yeah, honestly, I'm really happy with the lap cars today.
Absolutely. Hey, what about qualifying, by the way? Dead set unlucky. 0.005 of a second between you and Corey. That was pretty tight.
Yeah, I reckon I had a little bit more, but came into the pits to get fresh tyres for another lap, but then noticed that quali was ended. So, but yeah, a little bit unlucky there. 5/1000th of a second is faster than the blink of an eye. So, but yeah, very close quali today.
No, it certainly was, but we expected that. The top field, the entire field, rather. I'll spit my words out properly eventually. We're separated by just over 1 second, which is not too bad when you consider the field was 26 deep tonight. Hey, Dan, I'm going to let you take the reins here for a minute. What do you want to? What sort of questions do you want to throw at these drivers while we've still got them, please?
Look, I don't really have a lot. I guess most of my questions are probably going to be really turning our attention to next week, Road Atlanta, which I got right this time. I said it was Road America last night. That's later in the calendar. Road Atlanta this week coming up. Anzac Day. Gentlemen, we've already seen from your team, Sean, the 9-5 guys have got a fantastic looking Anzac livery to represent for Anzac Day. For yourself, Corey and Rehan, and your respective teams, are the guys looking at doing anything a little bit unique for that one?
I'm not really too sure.
Me neither. See what happens.
All right. Hey, very quickly, guys, we've got to get some thank yous and some championship points and a few other things out of the road before we rock and roll out of here. I'm already up against the clock tonight, but I was going off at 8:35 race start, not an 8:45. So we'll start wrapping this one up very shortly. But there's the rest of the calendar for you. Next week, earlier start time. Make a note of that. 7:25 Australian Eastern Standard Time. We've got an earlier start to the race. It'll be closer to 8 o'clock, not 8:30, because of the fact that we've got our first enduro of the season. Sean McNamara, I'm going to go to you on this one, and then we'll go around the room. Road Atlanta, across the course of 62 laps. I mean, it's going to be difficult in a very different way in which tonight at Lime Rock over 66 laps was difficult. We're adding an extra 90 Ks of racing here. So two-part question. One, just how switched on did you have to be tonight? How mentally fatiguing and physically fatiguing was that hour? Because it looked intense from where we were sitting. And then conversely, how do you, bottle that energy and take it into next week when you've got to go an extra 90 K?
Well, at least next week we've got a long straight. You can have a break, a bit of a stretch. But no, look, around tonight, yeah, it is intense. Turn one, yeah, it's so easy to make a mistake into turn one and then down into the chicane. So you're on your game every time just to make sure you don't lock a front or lock a rear. And the force feedback's quite, on my settings anyway, quite high for this track because it's quite loaded up, constant right-handers. Whereas, Road Atlanta's a complete polar opposite. It's it's quite a challenging, tricky track. Looking forward to it. And I think last time we were there, we went all right, so should be good. And there's going to be plenty of action with that big toe down the back straight as well in the race. So it's going to add a spice down into that chicane.
Corey, I'm coming to you in a moment, but firstly to you, Rehan. how do you bounce back from this week? How do you take the confidence from this week and apply it to next week? Because this is the confidence booster. This is the result you needed to, get the season up and away. Sure, you've been in the top 5, but you've been without the opportunity to be within striking distance of the top 3. How do you go about trying to back tonight's result up next week?
I'm not really too sure about that. Just gonna do what I can.
Although, one thing I will say is watch Rehan, because normally we see him play a different strategy to everybody else, and the Enduros bring with it a more open, broad strategy play option as well, being that 90k is longer, being the extra pit stop and a few other things as well. We'll crunch all the numbers for you next week and see where we're going with all of that. Corey, an extra 90k, big deal. But for someone that now has the championship lead and has that buffer, I think you've put about 18 points on Dylan Rudd tonight, so you've got a good little buffer. You can't afford to switch off because of the nature of the championship being no drop rounds and that sort of stuff. But how do you apply? How do you attack? Not apply. How do you attack next as the championship leader?
I think, we're probably getting to the point where we want to be a bit more cautious. But, obviously just want to go out there, go as fast as we can. Hopefully, aiming for a win. And, looking forward to going there.
Sean, obviously, Dylan would have been very disappointed with tonight's result. 11th and 2 drive-throughs for pit lane infringements. It's very rare that you get caught out by the same gremlin twice.
Yeah, spot on. Dill's, he's pretty frustrated, I think, but it is what it is. And normally we joke with Aaron Doll because he's the pit lane specialist.
Yes.
But it looks like Dill tonight's copped it. So, he'll bounce back and he'll fire up. And, I mean, it hasn't hurt too much. Thankfully, got back to 11th. So what's that? Call it still 20-odd points. So, anyway, long way to go. And as Corey said before, and we've seen over the past, 3-4 seasons in this league that anything can happen at any point. And, before you know it, back in 10th has got the win. So who knows?
Yeah, exactly right. Let's just remind everybody of the calendar and where we're going after Road Atlanta, if we can, please, because Road Atlanta is the first Enduro and the midway point of the season. There it is next week, round 6, 62 laps. The day after Anzac Day, so we've got our Anzac theme rolling over from Monday night into Tuesday night for you, ladies and gentlemen. Then in May, Imola, Oran Park for a super sprint, and other sprint rounds, Donington, Interlagos, and Road America, if you don't mind. Thanks for coming. And we go from one long track to another with a second Enduro for the championship at Mount Panorama on the first Tuesday of June. So that is going to be a lot of fun. I'm fresh off a trip. Actually, can you believe this? The 2 longest tracks on the calendar, and I'm doing 1,600 kilometres on the road between those 2 rounds, going down to Cessnock and back. So that'll be, I might be the one feeling the pinch on Tuesday, the 7th of June. But yeah, plenty to look forward to there. 4 sprint rounds, a super sprint, and an Enduro in the second half of the season. Same format as the first half of the season, and we kick off our first Enduro next week. But in the space of those 5 weeks there, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we go super sprint, sprint, Enduro, sprint, super sprint. So the best of all 3 worlds in the space of 5 weeks. Let's have a look at the championship points as they stand at the end of round 5. And what a cracker it was. There's that advantage that we're talking about. It's ballooned out. It's 29 points now. Corey Shepherd to Dylan Rudd. By G. That is as good as a country mile in this series when we've seen championships separated by a point. Dylan Rudd on 723. Sean McNamara has closed the gap. He's now 6 away from his teammate. So I'll go toe-to-toe to see who holds bragging rights in the 9-5 stable over the next 7 weeks. 6 points to the margin. Rehan Leonage with that emphatic victory tonight gaps Rainer Costello a little bit, closes the gap to everybody else marginally on 705. So 47 points covers the top 4, and 11 back to Rainer Costello, who, credit to him, 4th is a very good performance, but you could tell that he was just starting to feel a little bit fatigued there in the second half of the race, or at least JP picked it up. I didn't. I didn't even give it a second thought. I just commend him for getting in after the 36-hour trip to begin with. Simon Chadwick on 641, just 2 clear of Cameron Jones. 616 for David Kirby, who had a shocker tonight. 614 for Robert Crisdale, and 608 for Brenton Nitschke, making up the top 10. Let that scroll through so you can find where your favourite driver's sitting at the moment. Dylan Pereira not to forget Jamie Dyke, not much better than that. But he still got back to 17th. At least Pereira didn't finish. Let's get around the room and get some thank yous out of the road here. And we'll start with third place tonight, the numero uno of last season, Sean Macklin.
Yeah, thanks, mate. First up, I haven't had a chance for a while, but thanks, JP, for everything he does. Yourself, Zach, and great to hear Daniel in the booth as well. Well done, Rehan and Corey tonight. But shout out to my guys, Knife Life Sim Sport, Racecraft Simulations. It's been a while since I've done this, bloody hell. AD 3D printing, RSW graphics, racing ears, custom ears protection, and cutting head straps. So thanks for those guys.
Very nicely done. Stick around because we'll no doubt get a chance to have a chat to you off here in just a moment. In the meantime, Corey Shepherd, to you. Second place tonight. You continue to run a podiums to start the season. This is why you are the championship leader.
Yeah, you guys. First of all, I just want to say congrats to Rehan on the race win tonight. I'd also like to thank all the Premier Racing team. Big thanks to you guys, and also a shout out to Mum and Dad and everyone watching at home.
All right, well, very well done. Congratulations to you on being first Ford home tonight as well. As I said, even throughout the top 20, very rare you see that. Normally it's in favour of Holden. Normally the Ford presence hasn't been as strong as what it is this season. We're enjoying every second of that, as we did enjoy every second of Rehan Leonage's first win of the season. The youngest bloke, one of the shortest tracks on the calendar. Looks like a nice recipe, doesn't it? He got the job done. Phoenix on top, ahead of Premier and 9.5. Rehan, the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you. I'd like to thank my sponsors, Melbourne Hydrographic Stepper, Track Racer, Simco, Aramex Heatherton, and LAL Photography. And I'd like to thank my parents and my rest of the family and some of my friends for watching. And well done to Shepard and Maka on the top 3 in the podium. Thank you to the lap cars for not getting in the way too much, and thanks to you guys, commentators, and JP for setting up the series, and thank you to just everyone.
That is actually a good point that Rehan makes. As I bring Daniel Lead in for some final thoughts, and on the way there, I want to thank our sponsors, our supporters of the RSRA SuperSeries for Goodyear Autocare Warana, starting with the naming rights sponsor, Goodyear Autocare Warana, Real Sim Racing Australia, FU Suicide, Sim Shed Broadcasting, Track Cams for Gourmet, SDK Gaming, Overpass Visuals, and Sim Inc. We thank all of them for their ongoing support of everything we do here on the platforms of Sim Shed Broadcasting. We'll get Daniel Lead in now for some final comments. Lap traffic pretty well did behave itself tonight, mate. We were highlighting that as a potential issue. Safety car probably meant that we didn't have as much of an issue with lap traffic as we otherwise might have. But in saying that, it was still pretty prevalent there towards the end. It was always going to be such a short track, and a discrepancy in the end between the fastest and the slowest on the racetrack, and some guys, nursing some damage along the way here too. But for the most part, lap traffic, even some of the hot shots that were down the order because of misfortunes along the way, behaved themselves pretty well. Absolutely.
Everyone did a phenomenal job. I know we saw the top 15 still on the lead lap at the end of the race, but for the guys that did get a lap put on them or had some unfortunate untoward earlier on in the race that really compromised their run, they still drove phenomenally well. They stayed out of the way. They didn't impede guys coming through. And obviously, we all know from a race control standpoint, you stick to your line, you hold it, you be consistent, help the guys come through. But no, for everyone else, did a phenomenal job. The top 3 that took the wins tonight, Rehan, Corey, and Sean put on a phenomenal show. Rayner just missed out there, but again, another phenomenal drive for him. We've got to say too, the other big standouts for me, I think, when we look up and down throughout the field, Rob Frisdale up 11 spots, Hayden Norris 12 gain, Simon Bella picked up 10 for his effort as well. So some big movers all in all for the guys getting through, and only a couple of minor little things along the way, but mate, the racing was hard and fast. We didn't know where to look. And like we were saying, you get one sentence finished, you completed a lap, we're back onto the next one, and then the whole thing's changed again.
Exactly right. Driver of the night nomination from you before we rock and roll out of here, please.
Look, I'm going to give it to pretty well everyone. I think everyone drove phenomenally well. I don't think there's a single one that I could discount out of that one.
Not as much carnage as we might have anticipated. Still, obviously, a few penalties issued, one disqualification, one big shunt for Dylan Pereira as well. But for the most part, yeah, everyone put on a sensational show tonight. We're worried about the way Lime Rock might play out because of, as Dan said in the opener, next to no overtaking opportunities. It delivered an instant classic. Strategy play came right to the fore. And in the end, zagging when everybody else zigged, played into the hands of Rehan Leonage beautifully. He's joined the winners list this season. Dylan Rudd, Corey Shepherd, other winners so far in the campaign. Now we turn our attention from the shortest track on the calendar to the first enduro of the season. Let's have a look ahead on the platforms of Tim Shed Broadcasting. This is everything that's coming your way. Saturday night, don't miss this. The Anzac Cup, the Custom Paints and Diecast Australian Stock Car Championship. That is from 7:20 Australian Eastern Standard Time. That is Talladega. Mark Johansson winning last lap race to the line after a big shunt in the mid-pack at the Talladega Super Speedway last year. We'll see if we can go back to back, but you know what Talladega's like. It's a bloody lottery. That's 7:20 Australian Eastern Standard Time on Saturday night. Looking forward to that. Shame I can't be in two places at once. The Ipswich Jets are playing that afternoon, so I'll be over there. Next Monday night, a sprint round, of course, for the Real Sim Racing Australia Super 2 series from just on 8 o'clock there with Matt Davis and either Dean Reddit or Dan Leach, whoever's willing to come in and sit side saddle with Matty Davis. He's back on deck. Looking forward to that immensely. That is round 6, of course, the midway halfway point of that championship. Monday night, Road Atlanta, the venue. We back it up on Tuesday night from the earlier time, as we said there earlier. It'll be about that 7:30 marker. I just realised that means I won't be able to watch home and away. Very disappointing, but that's okay. We make sacrifices for the things and people we love, ladies and gentlemen. Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries from Road Atlanta, the first of 2 enduros in the campaign, round 6 and 12 next Tuesday night, the 26th of April. So a little bit of public holiday motorsport on the Monday night, and then come and join us again on Tuesday night for our Anzac Day in a rendition of Real Sim Racing Australia Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries action. I'm looking forward to it immensely. So Rehan Leonage back on top. Such a familiar face and a familiar name at the top of the standings and the top of the table in last year's final Real Sim Racing Australia Super Series season. And he showed exactly what his potential is, what he can bring to the table when everything falls into place. He delivered tonight. He got a much-needed confidence boost. His first win, his first appearance on the podium throughout the course of this season. And what a way to do it. A strategy classic from Lime Rock Park in Connecticut. Sean McNamara on the podium for the first time of the season as well. Dylan Rudd, an absolute shocker, but that enables Corey Shepherd to make the most of a second-place finish and extend his championship lead to boot. There are not too many opportunities where you can run second and still benefit in the long run. So a very good night at the office here. Lime Rock kept us on our toes from first until last. We worked up a sweat, not just the drivers. That was hectic stuff, first until last. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did on the platforms of Sim Shed Broadcasting. On behalf of Dan Leake, JP, and the entire broadcast and production team here, I'm Zach Caban from the Lime Rock Park circuit in Connecticut, the virtual one at least. We wish you a very good night. We'll see you next Tuesday for the first enduro of the season with your Autocare Warana SuperSeries. Bye for now.